I listened to the clip. This is courtesy, and I'm going to let you all hear a few seconds of it before I provide a response. This is courtesy of Undisputed on FS1, and the fellow who is making the comment is a friend of mine, Rob Parker, part of The Odd Couple, one of the shows I actually like. Rob Parker said this.
Read my lips. The Warriors dynasty, whatever you want to call it, has been officially eliminated once Kevin Durant left. It's not happening. I do not see the Warriors winning anything anytime soon. And it has nothing to do. You can talk about adding all the players, about the lottery picks and Wiggins. It's about Steph and Clay. It's about
the
those
best
guys.
backcourt ever?
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it. That whole dynasty that everybody talks about is totally fraudulent.
Oh, God.
The only reason they had
a dynasty?
No, the only reason they had a dynasty is because KD joined the team. Steph, Clay, and Draymond Green, they won one championship. That was without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. That's the one that they won. Iguodala was the MVP, not Steph, not Clay. Hold on.
Shouldn't have been.
And then they played Cleveland, and were the first team. That was the 73-9 team.
73 games.
That's right,
Wow.
regular season.
Good.
But they choked down the NBA Finals. The first team in the history of the NBA to choke down a 3-1 lead. They lost 2 of the 3 games at home.
Yeah.
They lost 3 games in a row. They hadn't lost 3 games in a row all year. It's a fraudulent dynasty. Unless Kevin Durant's coming back, they're not winning again. Stop the romanticizing of Steph and Clay. Let me give you Steph's. You ready? Listen.
Well, to say the least, Rob Parker's cool, okay? I had him on my show. But when I heard that, and y'all know I'm a Golden State Warrior fan, that pissed me off. And it leads to this.
It's time to go.
Let's go in, shall we? The Warriors dynasty was fraudulent, according to Rob Parker. The Warriors dynasty was because of KD, according to Rob Parker. Mr. Parker, I guess you didn't realize that Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green were drafted by the Warriors in the process of their rebuild from 2009 to 2012. I guess you don't realize that Steph and Klay and Draymond are their core players. I guess you don't realize that it wasn't the Warriors who made the call for KD to come to them. It was KD who made the call to the Warriors. I guess you don't realize that the Golden State Warriors have something LeBron's never had in 17 years. It's called a winning culture. I guess you don't realize that Stephen Curry, the current Warrior, be injured as he may be, was a unanimous most valuable player and the only one in history to this juncture. I guess you don't realize that Stephen Clay knocked down 402 threes. I guess you don't realize that the Cleveland Cavaliers, to borrow from Stephen A. Smith, were granted an enormous stimulus package in 2016. I guess you don't realize that the NBA has had it in for the Golden State Warriors. Okay, I'm going a little far. I guess you don't realize that the Cleveland Cavaliers were granted a stimulus package all the way from heaven in 2016. Everybody wants to say, oh, the Cavaliers erased a 3-1 deficit. They had help. Don't you realize that they had help? They had help from the NBA. They had help from LeBron James, who engineered the whole damn thing by dry snitching on Draymond Green for kicking him in the you-know-where when it was an accidental kick in the first place, and second, LeBron tried to walk over him. If you want to follow the letter to the law, then the finals appearance in 2016 should not have happened, because if you follow the letter of the law, according to the NBA, Draymond Green should have been suspended in the Western Conference Finals, not the NBA World Championship Series. And I laid it out as a conspiracy theory that because of that stimulus package, that's why Cleveland was able to get back in the series, because if Draymond Green plays in Game 5 of that World Championship Series, it's a walk-off. It's a 5-game conquest. It's a 5-game wipeout. Because every game in that series because every game up to that juncture, the first 4 games were decided by double digits. The first 2 were wipeouts in Oakland. Cleveland wiped out the Warriors by 30 points in Game 3. And then the Warriors won by 11 in Game 4, 108-97. Matter of fact, the first 6 games were decided by double digits in that 2016 World Championship Series. I guess you don't realize, Mr. Parker, that in order for the Warriors to get back to the World Championship Series, they had to erase a 3-1 deficit of their own. And that was against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had Kevin Durant at the time. If there was any kind of dynasty, it should have been formed in Oklahoma City. And to be more to the point, it should have been formed in Seattle. I have said it on this program, and I will continue to say it for as long as I'm alive. The Oklahoma City Thunder should not exist. It should still be the Seattle Supersonics, because the Seattle Supersonics had a 41-year history unfairly taken away from them by Clay Bennett and David Stern. Rest in peace, David Stern. I love you, but for that I don't. The Seattle Supersonics should still be in operation. David Stern could have forked over the money needed to get a new arena in Seattle and place it anywhere he wanted to. He had the cash. It should not have even gotten political. It should not have even gone to that point. If you want a dynasty, it should have started in Seattle. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, all that should have been in Seattle, not Oklahoma City. Can you imagine the rivalry the Seattle Supersonics and the Golden State Warriors would have had? It would have been a rivalry that would have been groundbreaking. Beyond groundbreaking. I mean, who expected the Golden State Warriors to come out of nowhere, Mr. Parker? And I guess you forgot the fact that the Golden State Warriors came out of nowhere, Mr. Parker, after losing a 7-game series against the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round in 2014, Mr. Parker, to rise to power, win 67 games, and win the World Championship on the Cavaliers' floor. Yeah. I guess you forgot all of that. I guess you forgot those facts. I guess you forgot the fact that the biggest rival, aside of the Cleveland Cavaliers, to this Warriors dynasty was the Houston Rockets. The Rockets had 4 shots at the Warriors. 4 of them. 4 shots at the Warriors, and they failed each and every time. A 5-game conquest in the Western Conference Finals in 2016, a 5-game in 2015. I beg your pardon, a 5-game win in the first round in 2016, a 7-game win in the Western Conference Finals in 2018, and a 6-game conquest in the Western Conference semifinals in 2019. And oh, by the way, Stephen Curry went off for 33 points in the second half of Game 6, the walk-off victory in Houston, Texas. But I guess you forgot all of that, didn't you, Mr. Parker? Mr. Parker, allow me to remind you that this dynasty is still in motion. This is an off year. Dynasties have had off years. Ask the Boston Celtics. Ask the Los Angeles Lakers, who lost to Houston in 5 games in 1986. Did anyone call that dynasty over? No. The Boston Celtics had an 8-year run as world champions, and then they lost. Did anybody call their dynasty over? No. They're still regarded as one because of the number number of championships they have won, the number of championships the Los Angeles Lakers have won, 17 and 16 if you're counting. And this Golden State Warriors team is still young. They still have the best ownership group in the business. They still have the best set of players in the league. It's not LeBron's league. It's not Russell's league. It's not Russell Westbrook. It's not James Harden's league. No, this league in current time belongs to the Splash Brothers. And as big of a decision as Kevin Durant made to join the Golden State Warriors, he made the decision to leave them. Oh, by the way, Mr. Parker, have you figured out the fact that Kevin Durant's not playing this year, or the possible fact that Kevin Durant may not play next year because of a serious injury? Or have you forgotten the fact that injury happened because he was giving himself to the Golden State Warriors? The Kevin Durant move to Golden State enhanced them, the same way that Dennis Rodman going to Chicago enhanced the Bulls, the same way that James Worthy, a draft pick, mind the way, enhanced the Lakers, the same way that Bill Walton, who was drafted by the Portland Trailblazers enhanced the Boston Celtics in 1986, the same way, my friend, that having Sean Elliott return to the San Antonio Spurs after a stint with the Detroit Pistons enhanced the San Antonio Spurs in their dynastic run. And oh, by the way, have you figured out the fact that the Spurs never put 3 consecutive championships together, and yet they are called a dynasty for their run? Have you ever figured out the fact that the Lakers, who have three-peated on a couple of occasions, didn't have their dynasty called dead or fraudulent because of some of the players they had in their organization, nor have the Spurs, the Bulls, the Celtics, or anybody else that had a long run of championship excellence. In other words, what I'm saying to you, my friend, is that championship excellence depends on the parts of a team. You understand that? As much as of a LeBron hater that you are, and I give you credit for that, you have to remember, you can't hate Steph and the Warriors, you can't hate Steph and Clay, you can't hate the Splash Brothers because they are part of a team. Just as Tim Duncan and David Robinson were, just as Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were, just as Magic Johnson, Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy were, just as Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish were. And oh, by the way, there was a trade that the Boston Celtics made in 1984 that brought them the final piece to their championship puzzle after being swept the year before by the Milwaukee Bucks. That piece's name was Dennis Johnson. He was traded to them courtesy of the Phoenix Suns. But I guess you forgot all of that, did you, Mr. Parker? I was scouring all around for some great guests to bring on the show, and one of them found me via Twitter. This fellow is a gym rat. He's a baseball rat, and he is a great voice he's a great voice in the state of Ohio. He calls games for the MAC for Learfield IMG, and I am pleased to welcome Scoop Miller to the program to talk some college basketball. How are you, my friend?
Hey, fantastic, Snowman. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a great time of the year. We're speeding toward March. We're speeding toward the NCAAs and championship weekend, and you cover a conference I have long loved, especially me being from Chicago. You got the Northern Illinois Huskies, and you being in Ohio, you got Miami University of Ohio. Let's give the fans a quick look at what MACtion is like, and there's a reason behind the word.
Well, I tell you what, you have to love the MAC year in, year out. You know, it's a mid-major here, as you mentioned. We have several Ohio schools. You have the Akron Zips, BG Falcons, Kent State, Ohio Bobcats, Miami, University of Toledo. Of course, as you mentioned, Northern Illinois there, who I covered a week ago for Learfield IMG. But this is a great conference. This year especially, it is unbelievably wide open. You know, there's no really true favorite as we're just a couple weeks away from the MAC tournament.
And speeding toward the MAC tournament, who have you seen so far that could, take over the rest of the way and get one of those top seeds leading into the MAC tournament?
Well, I tell you what, I really like the Bowling Green Falcons. They really came in this year under the radar. They've had some past struggles, but Coach Michael Huger's done a fantastic job there. Currently, they're sitting in first place, just a half game ahead of the Akron Zips, but they're 9-3. Just doing a lot of things well. They've won 10 of their last 12 games, but they did run into a buzzsaw last night at Akron, lost a tough game to the Zips that really kind of tightened the MAC race up. But, they're a team that really plays hard at the defensive end. They have a solid player in Justin Turner who just can hurt you in a multiple variety of ways. But that's a team I think could make some noise in the MAC tournament, which is held at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland just a couple weeks down the road.
Yes, indeed. Looking at the MAC East, Bowling Green, Akron, as you just mentioned. You mentioned Kent State and Buffalo, both at 6-5. And these two are going to, these two are competing for what could be a very important spot in that tournament in Cleveland.
Yeah, it really is. And the way the MAC does their tournament, there's 12 teams, everybody gets in, but the top 4 teams automatically get buys to Cleveland. So you have basically 4 playing games for seeds 5 through 12. And so you want to be, if you don't get one of those top 4 seeds, you definitely want one of the next 4 seeds where you have home advantage on basically the playing game to Cleveland. And as we all know, this year in college basketball, the home team has really had a significant advantage this season.
And looking at the MAC West, you talk about a home court advantage. Northern Illinois, my Huskies, 9-3 at home in the Convocation Center in DeKalb, Illinois. They lost their last one. They are 8-4 in conference, half game ahead of Ball State, 2 games ahead of Central Michigan, and then you got Western Michigan, Toledo, and Eastern Michigan bringing up the rear. How about those Huskies?
I tell you what, I really enjoyed covering the Huskies. It was a week ago Tuesday night, and they came in Toledo, were able to get a big road win at Toledo, a place that typically is tough to win at, Savage Arena there at UT. But, Northern Illinois, they've won 7 of their last 10. They did have a tough loss last night, but I think to Ball State, I believe, in a tight game. But, they're very competitive. They have the league's leading scorer in Eugene German, who is a phenomenal player. He led in high school. He led the state of Indiana scoring consecutive years his junior and senior year. He played at Century 21 Charter School out of Gary, Indiana.
Yes, indeed.
But this kid can absolutely fill it. He's got NBA range. When he hit a step back in traffic over a 6'11" guy for Toledo the other night, from probably 28 feet away, really showed me not only about his range, but his confidence, his courage. And the thing is, you try to go out there and defend him. He is so quick with the dribble. He can take it to the rack. He's just a tough guard. He's going to get his points regardless. You just really have to kind of contain his teammates, because I'm not sure you can really stop Eugene German the year he's had.
I've had a chance to see Eugene German a couple of times, 2014, 2015, when they faced Marquette Catholic both times, and Marquette Catholic had a great scorer at the time by the name of Ryan Fazekas. And you talk about Eugene German having a quick first step, unbelievable range, which has just gotten longer since he got to Northern Illinois. You want to talk about a steal of the conference? It is Eugene German.
Yeah, I think you're right. Again, go back to that step back. I mean, he elevated. I'm not sure his vertical leap is. It's pretty good, but he just elevated, went back, and it was effortlessly.
Yeah.
But he also can get into you defensively. That's what really impressed me. A lot of guys will play hard at the offensive end, but Eugene was one of those guys that kind of made things happen at the defensive end. They were able to turn Toledo over. I think Toledo had 11 turnovers at halftime, ended up with 19 that game. But that was a big part of that Northern Illinois offense from their defense. But certainly a fun team to watch, and one of many teams that certainly has to have aspirations of winning that MAC tournament and getting into the NCAA tournament this year.
And them having one of the top 4 seeds, as you mentioned, could be a top 2 seed if this pans out the way that it pans out. But looking at Northern Illinois and them having one of the top 4 seeds to get that bye is going to be huge when the tournament comes around to Cleveland.
Yeah, it really is. When you get to Cleveland, you wanna have fresh legs. You want to have that bye game and not have to get that play in to get there. But right now, the way things look, I really like Bowling Green. I like Northern Illinois. I like Akron. I like Ball State. I think those are going to be the 4 teams that are going to slip into those byes, and the rest of it's really pretty much going to be a dogfight. And again, I think the MAC teams have won 73% of their home games this season. So you talk about the importance of trying to get a higher seed so you can at least have that home court advantage in that play-in game.
Talk about home court advantage. Look at Akron as we go back to the East. 12-2 at home. Bowling Green 11-1 at home. I mentioned Northern Illinois 9-3. But you want to talk about a team that's got a great home court record but hasn't done great on the road, and they're going to be in the middle of a dogfight. That is Central Michigan, 6-4 in the conference. 11-2 at home, but only 2-8 away from home.
Yeah, that's just hard to believe, that number right there. And that actually one of the losses for Central Michigan was last night. They lost a tough home game to Eastern Michigan by 3 last night. But you have to be able to somehow find a way to sneak some wins in the road, and that's where the Chippewas have really struggled, as you mentioned, 2-8. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, but that's a team that's awfully dangerous too. They have some solid players, but again, that's what's been so fun about the MAC this year. Any given night, if you don't bring your A game, you're going to be in trouble. Last night, Miami is a team that's really struggled in the MAC. In fact, they were down at OU on Saturday, 34-11, but they came in Toledo last night, a tough place to play. And they really dominated the first half, had a nice lead at halftime, but Toledo was able to come back and pull out a victory. But, that's one of those games where I think most people think, well, Toledo's at home, they're going to win against a Miami team that's really struggling. That's not how it works in the MAC, even though, they've been hurting to get wins there. Miami, they've lost 8 of their last 10, they probably led in that ball game for 30 minutes last night.
Yeah, let's take a look at another team in the East. Mentioned Kent State 6-5. Now let's look at Buffalo 6-5, 15-9 overall. So they have a chance to reach that watermark of 20 wins on the year. But it's really going to depend on how they do in the tournament. What do you see from them, from the University of Buffalo Bulls coming down the stretch?
Well, I think they're going to have to really rely on Javon Graves. He's kind of been their go-to guy all season. That's a team that's kind of fought the injury bug off and on this season, a team that's been banged up. But, if you followed the MAC in recent years, Buffalo is one of those teams where you typically have to go through if you want to have success in the MAC tournament. So certainly nobody's going to discount the Bulls out right now. They're a team that's won 6 of their last 10, so they're kind of starting to find their stride a little bit. And, how they finish is going to be huge. They've lost a few more home games this year than I think they're 8-5 at home this season. But, that's a team that you certainly can't look past, a team that's had a lot of success here, especially in the last, 10, 12 years in the MAC.
Let's look at the Akron Zips. They're a half game behind Bowling Green. They come in 8-3. Bowling Green 9-3. Akron 18-6 overall. They've won their last 2. What's kept them afloat? What's kept them in the race for one of the top 4?
Well, I tell you what, first of all, they're a well-coached team. They have one of the top players in the league in Lauren Jackson. Right now, the Zips, they've won 9 of the last 12 games. So they're kind of really starting to find their stride there. They also have a guy named Tyler Cheese. He's a solid player, comes in scoring 16 points a game. He's one of those guys that can hurt you in multiple ways. But, that's a team where you really have to guard all 5 guys. It's kind of tough to load up on anybody. So you have to really kind of play them balanced. It's hard to get into them. They handle the ball so well. They can hurt you in transition. Again, that's a team that's certainly awfully dangerous. Certainly, they have to believe this could be the year that they get through and not only get to the NCAA tournament, but maybe have a little bit of success there on an NCAA tournament run.
Scoop Miller joining me to talk some college basketball. We took a look at the MAC, and he's going to pop in a little later, and we're going to take a look at another conference that's near and dear to my heart. We like to call it the Big Ten. He'll stop by later. Right now, we're going to pause for a break. Got some more stuff for you when we come back. All right, folks, we continue on with the program, and I want to welcome back to the show a young man I had on a long time ago. Too damn long. He has been tearing it up in the podcast ranks, and I mean that with all the love in the world. I want y'all to listen for this name as he continues to climb the podcast ranks, the radio show ranks, and I tell you what, I'm so happy to have him back on my show to talk a little hoops with me. He is the host of The Real Deal with Damian Adams, and Damian Adams has joined me. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Like you said, it's been way too long, but I'm super happy to be back on the show with you.
Oh man, I am excited to have you with me. So let's talk. Let's talk NBA because it's one of our specialties, and you and I we're playful with each other on the internet when we go back and forth on social media. But first of all, let me get your thoughts on one Kobe Bean Bryant.
Man, it's just such a tragic tragedy. When you think about the fact that we lost 9 people way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And, the thoughts go through your mind of, should they have ever gotten on a helicopter? When you hear about how foggy it was, should they have, we know that it was a way of life for Kobe to take a helicopter because it just made things easier for him.
Yeah.
When it comes to traffic and just being able to move around with somebody who's that famous, not, being on the streets with everybody and things like that. So we get it that was something he did normally like we do with our cars every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you just wonder if that's the day they should have changed up the routine because of the weather, and could they have changed things? But you can't go back, and so now you just have to take time to not only remember Kobe but remember Gigi and remember all the victims on this, on that flight. With Kobe, when you think about Kobe, he definitely made a great impact on the world.
Yes,
and if there's one silver lining to this tragedy, is the fact that you see how many people he affected in such a major way.
And LeBron's speech this past Friday night, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The LeBron speech this past Friday night had me crying, okay? Especially when he spoke from the heart. I absolutely adored that.
Yeah, definitely. It was the tribute as a whole just was so touching. And it was understandable afterwards how it was kind of a weird feeling because you're watching the game and in the arena you could hear a silence.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was some cheering here, some cheering there, but it was an eerie silence. Like people didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
They didn't know, is it okay to move on now? And the thing is, it's okay to move on. You know that you never forget. We're going to have moments where things are going to remind us of Kobe. There's going to be moments where someone does something special where only, Kobe and Michael or LeBron did it. And we're going to remember Kobe again. So we're never going to forget Kobe Bryant. We're never going to forget Gigi. We're not going to forget those other victims on that flight. And that's what the main thing is, to make sure that we keep them in our hearts. And for Kobe, man, when you think of Kobe, for me, I just think of the Mamba mentality. I think of someone who, as he put it, was a talented overachiever. He had the God-given gifts of being 6'6", 6'7", with, great athleticism, but worked as if he was someone like a Matthew Dellavedova. He had that type of work ethic if he was somebody who was, scratching and gnawing to stay in the league. So that's how I remember Kobe, as someone who had the talent of, a Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter and all those guys who worked as if he was the 12th man on the roster.
Yeah, and you'd see it in all of the legends. You see it in all of the guys that shaped this league and made this league what it is now. The international stars, the national stars, all coming together, all offering their thoughts and their prayers for the Bryant family, for the other families, including the Altobelli family that lost their life on that helicopter. And I've said many times on this program, and I know you've heard it, it not only hurts me as a fan, but it particularly hurts me as a parent.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I don't have kids yet, but the first thing, like when it happened, the first person who contacted me was my dad, right? And he, just wanted to say I love you, because you never know when those moments will be lost to be able to say I love you to the next person. We've all lost somebody close to us in not such a horrific way as this, but we've all experienced some type of loss. And this just puts into perspective how life as it's the longest thing you'll do, but it's also something that can end very quickly. So we just have to take every moment and cherish it.
Yeah. Yeah, I say I love you to my wife and my children all the time. You know the story of my baby girl, Donna. I lost her when she was 2. 2015, I lost my dad in 2007. So, yeah, from both ways, it affected me as a fan, as a parent, and as a son. And as you said best, my friend, you have to live your life to the fullest. That's what Kobe did. That's what I'm trying to do. I know that's what you're trying to do, and a fabulous show in the process of doing it. Let's talk some NBA, man. They made some changes to the All-Star game in terms of the scoring, and I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at the changes, but I have. And considering it's in my hometown of Chicago, the All-Star game is, and I know they're doing this to honor Kobe. And rightfully so. But I got to be honest with you, man. I took a look at the rules and I went, what the hell are these?
Yeah, I got a chance to look at the rules. I posted it in the group, The Real Deal with Damian Adams group.
Yes.
From the three-point conversion. They posted the rules, and I shared it from their page. And yeah, I had the same reaction you did. I was looking over and I was trying to understand exactly what they were trying to do.
You and I have talked sports a long time. You know that look on my face. I saw the rule and I looked at that link that you posted. And folks, check out the 3-point conversion as well. Another fabulous group of sports journalists. What the hell are these rules, man? What the hell are they trying to do?
The only thing I can say that they're trying to do is maybe this is their way of trying to amp up the competition through all 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Because we know normally with the All-Star game, what you get is you'll get the first 2 quarters and a half where they're just kind of jogging back and forth. You'll get some alley-oops. You'll get some long-distance threes. And then the competition doesn't really go up until the 4th quarter if it's close. And that's when you'll start to get real competition.
And that's a big if. It hasn't been close for a while, but that's a big if.
So with these rules, what they're trying to say is, okay, we're going to have each quarter count as a win or a loss, and maybe that will wrap up the competition. But to me, if you want to honor Kobe, it's up to the players.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can do all the things from an outside perspective, like them wearing 24 and wearing 2 to honor Kobe and Gigi. That's awesome. But if they want to honor Kobe as far as the play on the court itself, they have to just go out and leave it all on the floor. There's a reason Kobe had 4 All-Star MVPs is because he went out there and really played. So those guys, like, there's certain players who do play, like Giannis. Like, some people say Giannis plays too hard in the All-Star game. That's something that Kobe would love. So you have him, LeBron plays hard. Those guys are going to bring it, and I think that's the normal way you should honor them.
Kobe, MJ, LeBron, Julius Erving back in the day for me when I got started watching, Magic Johnson. You want to honor Kobe? Play that way.
Yeah. Nah, I definitely agree with that. Like, if they just went out there and said, okay, we're going to play for real, that's the thing. You're still going to get the highlights because of the best players in the world. So you're going to have moments where you get a steal, you get a fast break, and you'll still get to have those moments where you throw the ball at the backboard and some crazy athlete gets to come and tear it down. You'll still have those highlights. Yep. And it'll be even better if we know that came off of a real play.
Yeah, if it came within the flow of the offense, if it came, like you said, off of a real play. Let me ask you this, and I've talked so many times on this program about ratings being down for the NBA, and my theory is this, and I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but I want you to think about this, and I want your thoughts. Does the NBA and its ratings miss the Splash Brothers?
They definitely miss the Splash Brothers. They miss Steph, Clay. You miss Zion for a huge portion of the year. So those injuries in themselves really cost, right? Yeah. Then LeBron being on the West Coast hurts you because his games come on late in the East Coast, right, where people are asleep already. You combine the fact that the Warriors, who have been your biggest draw for the past 5 years, are no longer a draw at all. LeBron being on the West Coast. The rookie phenom who was supposed to, have New Orleans on the map was missing for most of the first half of the season. That's really going to hurt your ratings, right? Yeah. So now that Zion's back, Steph will be back. They say maybe 6 weeks to be reevaluated, but the Warriors, I think, they're pretty much lost for this year. So when you have Zion coming back, in the playoffs starting, where you have games coming on every night and a little earlier, I think that's when you'll start to see those ratings get back up. Yeah. And plus, football season officially ended yesterday. Yep. I think the NBA will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. It was just so many factors that came in at the top of the season. Talking with Damian Adams of The Real Deal with Damian Adams on all things NBA. Man, it's so much to unpack right now. I haven't had you on in a long time. I had one of our mutual friends on, Courtney Harden, a few years ago to talk all things NBA All-Star Game, and we bust out the old school All-Star Game talk and how it was competitive. And I was on his show recently, and we talked the same thing. Is the NBA missing that competitiveness now than it was back in the 80s and the 90s?
I wouldn't say it's missing it per regular season games and postseason games. The All-Star Game, definitely. You're not going to see that competitiveness, but I do think that the players themselves are just as competitive as they were back then. Yeah. The game has changed. True. So now that competitiveness just comes out in a different way. So in the 90s, when people were competitive and you saw people get frustrated with Jordan, that's when you saw Bill Laimbeer come and hit Jordan. Those things aren't going to happen now. Right. Yeah.
That's when you saw the rise of the bad boys, and on top of that, that's when you saw the Bulls answer them.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it was a different way to, channel your competitiveness back then than it is now. But now you have it to where it's so much more free flowing. I believe the game today is more attractive than it was then. Yeah. When you think about the way that the game is so spread out and how you get so many great plays and you get to see these athletes on offense do what they do. And defensively, I believe it's harder to play today than it was back then because you're not allowed to touch up the players like you were back then. There's no hand checking. People forget about hand checking. That. It makes your job so much easier when you can just have your hand on the player, holding them pretty much as they're trying to make their move as you guard them.
No hand checking.
You have to move your feet.
No arm
you have to
bars.
Move your feet.
No arm bars. You can't do that either.
Exactly. That's gone.
Don't get me started on screens. Don't get me started on fundamental screens, man.
Yeah. No, that's a big thing. That's one of the things that I used to hate watching the Warriors as they're going through their success. You know, you see Draymond Green get away with illegal screens all day. But it's something.
Draymond Green in modern times was Bill Laimbeer and James Edwards back in the 80s and 90s, all right, for the Bad Boy Pistons. Let's just be
That's
real.
One thing I'll say about Draymond. Draymond's one of those players that was built for back then. Like,
yes.
if he was playing back then, he'll fit right in.
Absolutely.
So it's something that, like, the style has changed, but I think the competitiveness of the players is still there. They're just smarter about the way they go about it. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the load management, but I get it. You know, when you have a player who may have a sore knee or tendonitis, like a Kawhi Leonard, you may be smarter to manage it, you know, but some players are just built different. Like LeBron could play in any era, right? Yes. Because the way he's built, he could, you know, plow through anybody. He could plow through the 80s, you know, because he's built for that. So I think we should appreciate the 80s and 90s for what it was, and we still could appreciate today for the wide open spread game that we have and the entertainment we get today.
I'll give you a couple of dream matchups I would love to have seen across eras. Start with the guard position. Wouldn't you love to see a couple of games when AI would go up against Stephen Curry?
It'd be amazing. Neither one of them could stop each other. But it'd be amazing to watch. It
would be so amazing. Yeah. The dribbling sensation of AI, the dribbling of Stephen Curry, clear the floor and let them go at it, man.
Yeah, exactly. And we only got a taste of it. We got very young Steph against older AI. So we didn't get to see them in their prime against each other. I wish we could have got to see that, because you think about AI and him being so dominant in the mid-range and being able to drive to the goal at his size, you know, being maybe the best pound-for-pound player of all time. Then with Steph, no matter what era you play in, you can't stop a guy who's shooting from 6 feet behind the line. Like, it doesn't matter what era you're in, how rough you try to be. If he's pulling up from 6 feet behind the line, it doesn't matter. So I don't think they couldn't stop each other.
I mean, how many times I get the Warriors Network, you know, they're on KNBR or 95.7 The Game, I beg your pardon. How many times have we heard Tim Roy or Bob Fitzgerald on NBC Sports Bay Area go, he's shooting from the logo? And you're thinking, what?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Steph, you know, Dame has become logo Lillard.
Oh, man. So Damian has really grown. I love watching Damian Lillard play. Love watching him play.
Yeah, no, he's amazing.
I mean,
he's amazing.
We got Damian and Steph last year in the West Finals. I just wish it had gone longer than 4 games. But when you're playing the two-time Warriors, and they weren't even at full strength, so that tells you, A, how far Portland has advanced, and B, how tough the Warriors were. I'll give you a dream matchup. How about an ultimate three-point contest? Let's do this. An ultimate three-point contest. You got to have Ray Allen. You got to have Steph. You got to have Clay. You got to throw Larry Bird in the picture.
Definitely.
You got to throw Reggie Miller in the picture.
Yep.
Right?
No, you definitely got to have those 5. If you throw in a 6th for ultimate three-point contest,
who would be
think about, like, there's so many great shooters.
Yeah, there is. There is. Who would be that?
So many great.
Who would be that 6th
I'm thinking
person?
Glenn Wright.
Yeah, that's 6. We gotta have 8.
Yeah,
we gotta have 8. We got Steph. We got Steph. We got Clay, Bird, Reggie Miller, Glenn Rice, Ray Allen.
Yeah.
We got 6, and you gotta have 7. We gotta have 7 and 8. We gotta have 7 and 8 because back in the day you had 8 competitors.
Yeah, no, definitely. So if you're gonna go old school with 8 competitors, for Craig Hodges.
Yes, thank you, Craig Hodges. And you know what?
Because he was amazing.
I know who the 8th person is. Steve Kerr.
Yeah. Now, Steve Kerr is definitely, I think he still holds the record for his most accurate three-point shooter of all time.
Yeah.
So, got to have him in there as well.
Got to have Steve Kerr. Now, how about the ultimate slam dunk contest?
Well, you got to have Vince Carter.
You got to have Vinsanity. Got to have MJ.
Yeah. Got MJ. Kobe. Dominique Wilkins.
Kobe gets a vote.
Yeah, I'll throw Kobe in there as well.
Kobe gets a vote.
I would go a little new school and take Zach LaVine.
Yeah,
Like Zach LaVine's
there
nasty.
you go. Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
You want to stay new school? Here's another new schooler I'd add. You'd have to be a few years back. Andre Iguodala.
Andre Iguodala was nasty. He was good in the contest. He was pretty good. He's somebody who gets forgotten about because of Nate Robinson. But
Right.
Andre Iguodala was nasty. Yeah, he was nasty in the contest.
Yep.
Someone else who was nasty. He's not so new school anymore. He retired a few years ago. But Jason Richardson.
Mm-hmm. Jason Richardson.
Very good in the dunk contest.
Julius Erving.
Yeah, his battles with Desmond Mason were great.
Julius Erving.
You gotta have Dr. J. He's the
gotta have Dr. J.
Yeah.
And the one who won it in '84 to start the new trend, Larry Nance. He was the first to have a 2-ball dunk. You gotta have Larry Nance in there.
Yeah. Now Larry Nance definitely his athleticism at that size was just crazy. We're gonna be doing those things.
Man.
And at that time too, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. But like I said, we got to have Dr. J in there because he dunked from the foul line in 1976, and then Jordan did it in '85 in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the 2-ball competition involving the best pairs, and you know where I'm going to start. You know where I'm going to start first. I got to go to my hometown and get MJ and Scotty to start with.
Yeah.
Gotta have
MJ, Scotty.
Gotta have MJ and Scotty.
Yeah. Definitely. Shaq and Kobe. Gotta have. One that doesn't have any championships, but definitely should be up there is Gary Payton and Sean Kemp.
Yeah. Oh, I got a pair for you.
That alley-oop combo was great.
Yes. I got a pair for you. KJ and Charles Barkley. There's a pair.
Kevin Johnson might be the most underrated player of all time.
Thank you.
He was amazing.
We've spoken about KJ. And I posted online that KJ is one of the most underrated point guards to ever play, which gives me this.
Definitely.
If we expand our ultimate three-point competition to 10 players, I got number 9 for you right now, and that's Mark Price from back in the day with the Cleveland Cavaliers. How about that?
Yeah. Mark Price was great, man. He's somebody who a lot of people sleep on him, but when you see people split up pick and roll today, like that started with Mark Price.
It started with Mark Price. It absolutely started with Mark Price. So you got MJ, MJ and Scotty, Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah, Gary and Sean Kemp.
KJ and Charles.
Stockton Malone.
Gotta have Stockton Malone.
Yeah, because that's the greatest duo to not win. Like you have to give him that.
Yeah.
Because you think about one is second all time in points, the other one is first all time in steals and assists.
Yep. Which leads to this magic with anybody: James Worthy, Kareem, Byron Scott.
Yeah, that's the thing. You could pick the Lakers team. That team, you could pick a bunch of different duos.
You can pick anybody for that team.
You just put Magic there, and you could just put anybody else there. Like those Showtime Lakers are amazing. Like Magic Kareem, you definitely have to put up there though, as far as duos.
This one's for my wife. How about a couple of Indiana Pacers, Mark Jackson and Reggie Miller?
That's a good duo. That's really good.
You got to put them in there.
I think an underrated one for the 2000 finals was Jalen Rose and Reggie Miller. Yeah, those guys, because they were one of the few duos ever to both score 40 points in the game.
Yep.
People sleep on Jalen Rose and they think of him just as the analyst or the one who got dropped 81 on by Kobe, but he had a pretty good career. People sleep on that.
He did. He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Here you go. Speaking of Knicks, Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably the most physical duo that's going to be there. Definitely.
Or here's a physical duo: Larry Bird and Kevin McHale. Since we're talking about duos.
Yeah, that's a nasty one. You got the inside-out game.
Yep.
You got the man of 1,000 post move. Kevin McHale. When you speak of underrated players, Kevin McHale has to be up there as well.
Yes.
Just because of time, people have forgotten how good he was, and plus he was under the shadow of Larry Bird and Robert Parrish. Like he's one of those guys. Like he could just go in the post and do work. He wasn't the most athletic.
You want underrated?
But he just does work.
I posted this, and you agreed with this name. Speaking of underrated, James Worthy.
Yeah, he gets lost because of Magic and Kareem. He's somebody who was definitely an awesome player in his day. So you definitely have to give him respect in that way.
Absolutely. You got to have. How about Tim Duncan and David Robinson? There's a pair.
Yeah, no, that definitely was that's a great duo. If you got Tim Duncan, you also have to put Tim Duncan, Tony Parker in there.
Mm-hmm. Pick and roll with Parker and Duncan, or Duncan and Parker, as was the case many times. Let's stay in Texas. Akeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that team definitely should have won some championships when he was younger. Of course, Akeem got his two when he got older, but when he was with Ralph Sampson, they definitely should have got one.
How about a current duo, or a duo that I wish was current? Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki. Speaking of Mavericks.
Oh man, yeah. We could somehow put Dirk in the time machine. That would be awesome.
Yep.
I think Dirk and not Dirk, but I think Luka and Porzingis will be a great duo soon.
Yes.
I think those two will work together and become great.
Mm-hmm.
We got Stephen Clay. Got to put Stephen Clay in there.
Got to have the Splash Brothers.
Yeah,
you have to
put those two in there.
You just have to wonder what records they would set. How about let me go back to my hometown, Derrick Rose and Luol Deng, and how good they were.
That's a good one. Yeah, if Derrick Rose could have stayed healthy longer,
I know
that team could have been. That team definitely could have won championship with the defense they had. Running the offense with Derrick Rose.
And I said the only thing that stopped the Bulls in the Thibodeau era from winning titles was injuries, because they were beat up by the time 2013 got here. And I hated that. I hated that they were that worn out and they were that beat up. So we got to throw them in there. Rose and Luol Deng, Kobe and Pau Gasol.
Yeah, that's a good duo.
There's a combination.
That's a good duo. People forget how good Pau Gasol was in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
He's arguably a top 10 power forward all time. And people, because Kobe was so great, people sleep on that. But Pau Gasol, in his prime, man, he was really good.
Oh, how about this duo? Mike Bibby and Chris Webber.
That's a good one. That's a team that probably should have won a championship. 2002, that 2002 Sacramento Kings team is up there. When you talk about the greatest teams to not win,
Kings,
the 2002 Sacramento Kings team is definitely right there.
Yeah. One of the most epic Western Conference Finals we've ever seen. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Damian Lillard.
You got to put LeBron and Kobe.
You got to have LeBron and Kobe.
I mean, not LeBron and Kobe, but LeBron and Dwayne Wade. I meant.
There you go.
You got to put LeBron and Dwayne Wade.
LeBron and Flash. I just spoke their names.
Talking about Damian and
Lillard.
CJ?
Thank you. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Or if you want to go back in the day for the Portland Trail Blazers, Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter.
That's a very good one. That's one that probably gets forgotten in history. That's a very good one.
It's a forgotten duo. The Portland Trail Blazers in 1990, they were a forgotten West champion because everybody had their eyes on Phoenix after they upset the Lakers and took them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. No, that Portland team should have got one. They should have got a championship in there.
They should have got one. They should have got. Here you go, Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. If you want to stay modern,
that's a duo that's pretty good for the years to come. you think about Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is what, 23, 24, and Gobert is like 27.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got a team. That's a pretty good duo for years to come.
Yeah, it is. It is. Damian Adams of The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Oh, man, thank you again for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it. You can find me everywhere on social media at The Real Deal WDA. So that's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. The show, The Real Deal with Damian Adams, is available wherever you listen to podcasts. So if you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find The Real Deal with Damian Adams. It's real sports talk for real sports fans. So I know if you listen to this show, you're a real sports fan, and you will enjoy my show as well.
I truly appreciate those words, my man. Please subscribe to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. I'm a subscriber. I recommend his podcast. I recommend his show. He just recommended mine. Man, thank you so much for coming on. I got to have you on again more often. We got to do this again.
Definitely. I got to have you on my show as well. We got to make this connection happen more often. Thank you again, sir.
You got it, my friend. Thank you very much. told you recently of being on a wonderful show called Black in Business. And I figure with this being Black History Month, I'm going to return the favor. On the hotline with me is one of the fellows who's in charge of said podcast. This is Andre Day, and he joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, my brother. How are you?
I am doing great. First of all, let me say thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me come on to your podcast and spreading some knowledge and spreading some love for the other podcasters, the other independent show hosts that do this just like we do. I can't thank you enough for that.
Man, listen, I tell you, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, because you gave more than what I even thought was going to be given. Like, I thought it was going to be like, regular run of the mill, and then we end by spreading love and showing love to brothers and almost putting us to tears, man. So I thank you a whole bunch for that. Thank you for being on the show.
That was one of the things I really wanted to touch on, and it's something, my wife tells me all the time. She says, maybe that can be part of your message as well as you having fun doing your sports show. Maybe you can drive that point home. And this is the point that I've driven home, for the time that she and I have been together and for a while now. There is not enough help out there in many ways for men. Let's take color out of the equation. There's not enough help out there for men who need to get back on their feet, who desire to get back on their feet, and for those who want to stay on their feet. That's why I love talking about that particular message, and I'm glad you helped me spread that message when I was on your show.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One of the things, and also one of the reasons that caused me to start the show was I wanted to spread a message not only for African Americans, but also just for the wider generation in general. A lot of individuals my age, both male and female, I don't believe they have the same drive that people before us had. And then also, with that, a lot of people don't get, like you said, enough assistance to start. And I believe it starts from, like, when we grow up, where we're taught certain things and then just kind of let go, and then just like, oh, you're an adult, you can do it. But you get a totally different, you get like a totally different viewpoint of what adulthood is. And then when you kind of reach back out for help, there's nobody there to help you. So, spreading love and showing love to men is something that we need to do every day. Like, every moment of every day you have, say I love you to a man. It'll help out a whole lot.
And this is what a lot of men don't get. Well, a lot of men get it, but they don't voice it aloud. And I was guilty of such. I said I love you to my dad and my granddad and my uncles every day that they were here. They've all passed on now. But I don't mind one bit saying I love you to a man who is very close to me. There are some broadcasters who I say it to, and I say it live on this show. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. In fact, it's a wonderful thing to communicate that, for men to communicate that to each other without having this 2 PC world misconstrue why we're saying that to each other. It needs to be said a lot more often.
Yeah. And I think also it needs to be said in a way where when you say it with confidence. I feel like if I say it to you, I'm only going to say it when it's only you and I. Like, certain people don't want other people to know that I said I love you. But it shouldn't be that way. Just as well as it doesn't matter if you show affection and love to your wife. People don't want to see that, but you don't care because it's between you and your wife. So I think the same thing should be from man to a man. Like, if I love you, I don't have a problem with giving you a hug, showing you affection, saying I love you, say I appreciate you, taking care of you, things of that nature. And it really doesn't matter what other people say or how they look at me or what they may think, because it's not for them to, it's not for them. It's for me and you. So as long as you and I have the understanding, I can honestly care less about what other people think.
And that's
really where I think a lot of people don't show it, is because they believe or think, oh, I don't want this person to think differently of me or what this person might say. And it really is affecting you more than what you may know.
It really is. It really does affect the person that, thinks aloud and thinks constantly about what other people think. I've had to learn from other people, my wife included, and my daughter and my son included. You can't think about what people say or think about you. That's just going to affect you. Do I have my days where I slip back into that? Absolutely. And I say that I say that aloud, and I say that with conviction, because I'm still learning a lot from my wife and her family, and I'm learning a lot about myself at the same time. Being on your show where I was allowed to express what I felt, and not just in the sports world, but just in life, that meant a lot to me. I can't thank you and your partner enough for allowing that to happen and allowing that message to be spread. That needs to be spread more often. So if men can communicate like that, do you know how different this country, let alone this world, will be?
I think people are afraid of what might happen. When I grew up, I saw a lot of things in person and a lot of things that are on TV that don't really show men loving each other. So adults now that are in my age bracket, late 20s, early to mid 30s, don't have that I love you type of mentality. So what happens in turn is that you have an issue, you deal with it by yourself, and then when you don't know how to get the results you need to make a better outcome for yourself, you start lashing out and doing things that you normally wouldn't do. So to answer your question, if we express love to one another more often, I think we would have, number one, happier individuals. And number two, we would be able to think more clearly and start doing things that would help us with a better life instead of putting us where we are in that mentality of crabs in a barrel, trying to keep everybody down. We would want to see everybody move up. So I think it would have an effect that I don't think the world is ready for on the African American side. Like, if we really put our minds together and stick to one another, I think we can be, I know we can be a force to be reckoned with.
Where did you grow up? Let's find out more about Andre. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in New York. I'm originally from Brooklyn. Both my parents are from New York. I lived in New York for about 7 or 8 years or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. And then I moved to New Jersey for about a year or two. And after New Jersey, I moved to Maryland. And I've been here in the Maryland, D.C. area since, let's say, 9th grade or so.
Wow.
9th or 10th grade. Yeah.
Wow. So you're originally from New York. I can hear that accent come out. Where's your sports loyalties lie? Which teams get you at the heart?
Well, I am a football fan, so my first team at heart would be the Giants.
Good man.
I also like to see the Jets every once in a while, just because they're also New York. I don't really watch a lot of baseball, but it does feel nice and feel good to see the Yankees do something well.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I would say basketball. I was into the Celtics, but after they dismantled the Kevin Garnett and the Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, I kind of spread away from the Celtics. Right now, I'm just kind of open. I like kind of any basketball team as long as it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really watch a lot of hockey, but people tell me I need to get into it because it's a really good and interesting sport. And that's really about it for sports.
Now, I'm going to tease you because I do have love for the New York Football Giants. I loved it back in the day when Bill Parcells and Bill Walsh would hook up and go at it, be it at the old Giant Stadium or at old Candlestick Park. You're not into basketball that much?
Not like I used to, no. Like I said, I used to be a Celtics fan, but once they dismantled that amazing team, I just kind of, I don't know, I went away.
Good. Then I can say Michael Jordan and get away with it.
I mean, hey, listen. Even though you don't watch basketball, you know who Michael Jordan is.
Yes. Thank you.
He was on the Wheaties box. He was on every magazine. I mean,
he was all over the place.
You walk into any country and say MJ, there's only one person that, I mean, they might do Michael Jackson, but only those two have MJ. There's no other MJs that are prominent in everybody's mind. So, yeah, you're fine with Michael Jordan. That's cool.
So true. And I've spoken to a couple of hardcore Knicks fans, and I kid them a lot. And I said, well, I guess I can't say Michael Jordan, and they start growling at me, but then we all start laughing at it. But I love having conversations like this during the show that, gives people the other side of the shows and the podcasts that I do. So that's why I wanted to bring you on, and you got to tell me how did you get your podcast started?
Well, in a previous job I had, I was just kind of sitting in the office, and it was a Friday afternoon, I believe. And I'm just sitting there pondering, like, what else can I do besides work every day, same job, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturday, and just go home? Like, there has to be something else I can do. So I started just thinking, like, I'm not really putting my business degree into play, because this job that I had at that time, really anybody can do. And I really wasn't doing much of a side hustle per se. So my supervisor at the time walked through the door. And as soon as he walked through the door, a light bulb came into my head. And I was like, ooh, I can do something that promotes small businesses, but how can I do it? So, I sleep on it. I think about it for a couple of days, and I go, well, I can do a podcast. Well, how do I do one? I did my research, and once I found out that you can literally start a podcast for free, it was a no-brainer after that. All the thing I needed was people to have on the show. As long as you have an email address and a place to host your podcast, it's essentially free. You don't have to buy anything. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from your laptop. I think the only thing that you may need to buy if you want to get fancy is a microphone.
Yeah.
But everything else is essentially free. So once I got that idea, I just started reaching out to people and letting them know, like, hey, I want to start a podcast and, promote small business owners and kind of discuss with them how they started and, what they do to keep themselves going and things of that nature. And, I got a few people to say, hey, yeah, no problem, I'll be on your show. And I was kind of taken back, like, oh, really? You want to be on my show? So, okay. Like, I was kind of nervous at that point. But then I said, this is what I wanted to do. And I did it. So it just kind of went from there.
Well, I am very proud of you. I am very proud to have been a guest on your podcast. You and I share a mutual friend, Stephen Askins of the Inside Inside Football Blitz. He was on your program, and he was the guy that led me to you and led me to your podcast. So I am very, very proud to be a guest on your podcast. I'm proud to have you on this show. And tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Oh, so they can find me. I would say the easiest way is to, you can email us at blackandbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. They can find us on Facebook, which is Black in Business Podcast. It can also be found on Instagram, which is Black_in business. And We're located at, on Apple, iTunes, Google Podcast. We're on, what is that other one? Spotify. And I believe those are the three major ones. I mean, we're on some other smaller ones I can't think of right now, but those are the three major ones at this point.
Hey, folks, check out the Black in Business podcast. I was a guest on it. If you know someone that has a small business, and this is Black History Month, if you know someone that has a small business and they want to get featured, this is the guy you contact. This is the podcast that you're on, and you get featured on this show as well. Andre Day, one half of the Black in Business podcast, joining me here on the program. I can't thank you enough. And I recommend to the folks again, I recommend to the community, please go check out the Black in Business podcast. Thank you for your time, my friend. I can't wait to have you back on.
I appreciate it. And before I go, I just want to give a shout out to my co-host, Bearded Wonder. Once you guys listen to the show, you'll see why he's such an awesome person. And I'm glad to have him as a co-host, and I can't wait to just continue to bring you guys more episodes.
Absolutely. One day I'm going to get you both on the program so we can really have some fun with it. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Oh, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Speaking of small business, there's a lady by the name of Jennifer Garrett who will join me next after the break. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Hope you're enjoying it as we're enjoying bringing it to you. You know, I am a fan of podcasts. I record them, I produce them, and I listen to them, a lot of them. And this one got my attention, and you guys know that I've begun to recommend a lot of good podcasts for y'all to listen to. Well, this one not only involves sports, it also involves life. And when I listened to it, when I heard about it, I knew I had to listen to it. I listened to it. I became a subscriber immediately, and I'm going to recommend this even before we get this done. The lady that I have on the line is the author of said podcast, Combining Football and Life. And when you listen to this podcast, you're going to get a lot out of it, and I recommend you not only sign up for it, download it, I just recommend everything about it. This is Jennifer Garrett, and she joins me right now. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Okay, you got to tell me how you put this podcast together. What gave you the idea, and what gave you the inspiration to put it together?
Sure. So my podcast is called Move the Ball, and that name was taken from a book that I wrote 7 years ago. And the book was about how you could take football lessons specifically and apply them off the field to be successful in business and in life. And after the book was published, I spent the last 7 years really working with people on how to move the ball and really grow that brand. And I decided that I wanted to do the podcast because it was just another great way to connect with people, having great conversations with professional athletes of all sports, as well as business leaders, on how we can use the athlete mentality and put into practice success strategies and habits so that we can get ourselves to the next level.
You started the podcast the day after the Super Bowl. You really pumped it up. And I have to tell you, I really enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it a lot. What got you into football? What got you started in liking football?
Great question. So I grew up in Chicago in the 80s. I just fell in love with the game. You know, ever since I was 4, I would watch football games with my parents. And what really intrigued me about the sport was not only the fast-paced nature of the game, but also there were these games where you would have these fourth quarter comebacks where teams were down, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns, and the game wasn't over until the game clock hit 0. And so I just found that fascinating and studied the sport my entire life and applied lessons from the game into my own life.
That is great. So you grew up a fan of the Bears back in the 80s, huh? Because I too am from Chicago, and I've seen the Bears over many years. Are there any other teams that you follow aside of the Bears?
Professional or college or either?
Either one.
So I am an Alabama alum, so I very much follow the University of Alabama football team. We had a rough season here this past season, but they'll be back next year for sure.
So I could have you on the show, and all I have to say is roll tide, and off to the races we go. How about a professional aside of the Bears? You follow anyone else?
There's a lot of teams that I like to watch. I think there's some great leaders who are great people both on and off the field. So it's not just the talent, but it's the character. Everyone talks about Tom Brady, right, and how great he was in New England. We'll see where he ends up going.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy watching that team because of the leadership. There's a lot of people that don't like watching the.
Well, people have hated on my team because my original team in professional football was the 49ers, and because of a fellow named Joe Montana, who Tom Brady gets compared to all the time. So I completely understand, the hatred, but I draw the same comparison that people do with Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's because of the way that Montana led his team on the field and the way the organization is run. And a lot of that you can apply to what you do with your podcast, which is very motivational, and I absolutely love it. And the lessons that you bring, you can, like you said, you can apply it to life.
Yeah. So I think, I do like watching the Patriots. I mean, there's a lot of great teams. I do like Andy Reid. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely.
For winning the Super Bowl. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is just a class act. I enjoyed watching the game. Their organization. There's some NFC East teams that I like watching. The Eagles. I like watching the Cowboys. And so, I mean, I'm just a fan of the game, and I love watching good game, so I don't just sit down and watch the Bears play.
Absolutely wonderful. Talking with Jennifer Garrett. I love a phrase that I happened to catch when I was doing my research for this interview, and I love how you put this. Quote, "You are the quarterback. Your life is the game. Own it and move the ball." There's your purpose right there for your podcast. Who are some of the guests that you've taped episodes with or going to tape episodes with so far?
Sure. So the first 3 episodes were released just this past week. The first one was just a solo of me, but I had on the show already Chris Leak. Chris was the quarterback who led the Florida Gators to their national championship in the 2006 season. So he was right before Tim Tebow. Tebow was a freshman when Chris was a senior, taking that team to their championship. Also, I had on Terrence Wood, who is the grandson of Pro Football Hall of Famer Willie Wood, who played for the Packers in the 1960s. Some other guests that I've recorded with already, Paul Pratt. Paul played with the Detroit Lions, and he's got a great organization called Second Wind Mentors, where he mentors young boys of single-parent homes currently. So we had a great episode. Another gentleman, Tony Simmons. Tony played on the Patriots. He played on a number of teams. He was nicknamed Touchdown Tony, played at Wisconsin for college ball. Some future guests that are coming up as well. Eric Dungy, who is the son of Tony Dungy. We're going to be recording an episode here in a couple of weeks. But it's not just football athletes. So I've also got a pro skateboarder, Mikey Taylor, who I recorded a show with. His episode will come out early March. Also Rob Murray. Rob played in the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League for many years. He's currently coaching the Tulsa Oilers, which is a minor league hockey team. So my goal is really a good cross section of athletes from all sports.
Absolutely wonderful. Again, this is Jennifer Garrett. You can find her podcast on anywhere where you listen to. It's called Move the Ball. It's the Move the Ball podcast, and it's absolutely wonderful. Tell everybody where they can find you, my dear.
Yeah, so the easiest way, I mean, it's going to be on all the platforms, or it is on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. But if you just go to movetheballpodcast.com, you can listen to it directly there, and there are links to all of those other podcasting platforms.
Jennifer Garrett joining me here on the program to talk Move the Ball and how she uses football to move the ball in life, and you can do the same thing. Absolutely great having you on. I got to have you on again soon.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show today.
We got more coming up in a smidge. I told you guys he'd be back, and he's back now to talk some more college hoops as we take a look inside of the Big Ten. This is Scoop Miller, courtesy of Learfield Sports and the Buckeye Cable Sports Network. How are you, my friend?
Hey, fantastic. Great to be here.
All right, let's take a look at the Big Ten, and I'm going to start with the surprise of the Big Ten, a team that is dear to my heart and still has a chance to win the darn thing. Who would have thunk it about the Fighting Illini of Illinois?
Yeah, what a tremendous job for Brad Underwood this year. These guys, they've really done a great job protecting home court. I think they're 12-3 right now at home, but they've won 7 of 10. I know they have a current 3-game losing streak, but they had won 7 row before that. And, they've got a chance to really make some noise, make a dent in this NCAA tournament. There's a lot of people besides yourself back in Illinois certainly excited about this team.
Man, this is a young Illinois team that sent shockwaves throughout the Big Ten, and they did it early in the year when they knocked off Michigan.
Yeah, that certainly was a huge win there. Had to just do wonders for their confidence. Michigan has had so much success, got off to such a great start this year as well. But, the Big Ten, it's been so hard to win on the road. I think this year, going into last night, I think just over 80% of the games have won by the home team there in the Big Ten. So that's something that's certainly been huge. But Illinois has showed they've been able to win away from home as well. I think they have a 4-4 record on the road, which certainly for a Big Ten school is not bad. You'll probably take it most years.
Yeah, you will. They're 12-3 at the State Farm Center, 4-4 away from home. They've lost 3 in a row, but no one. And I'll say it again before we move on to our next point. I'll say it again. No one expected Illinois to make this much noise. 16-8, chance for 20 for the first time in 4 seasons. And a chance to really make some noise in the Big Ten tournament and eventually the big dance in March.
Yeah, I think there's no question. I think in all fairness, they definitely came in under the radar this year, which might have helped them, get some key wins early. But right now, they're certainly on everybody's radar. You're not going to sneak up on Illinois. They're not going to sneak up on you right now. The fact that they've just been playing too consistently, just too well all years. They've proven, this team is not a fluke. This team is a real deal, and certainly they have high aspirations and champagne like they should.
And one team that they beat, that's one game behind them, what a win they had over Wisconsin. They took it to them, and that's one of those wins that's a signature win for them. And for Wisconsin, they're 7-6 in the Big Ten, 14-10 overall. But to outline something you talked about not only this time but earlier in the program, Wisconsin's 11-1 at the Kohl Center. The problem is they're 3-6 on the road.
Yeah, what can you say about Wisconsin playing at home? I think since the turn of the century in 2000. Their winning record at home there is over 87%, one of the tops in the nation. That's just incredible. I think everybody knows what a rowdy place that is to try to go play. So certainly Wisconsin's done a great job this year, 11-1 as you mentioned at home. But the Big Ten in general as well has been just unbelievable. The fact that the home team has held service, 80% of the times this year. Even though I think the last couple of weeks we've seen the visitors break through more and more. We saw Purdue get a huge win at Michigan State, at Purdue here recently, and so forth. We've seen some. We've seen some. There just seems to be a lot of parity, I think, across the board. So, you have to win at home, and if you're good enough to pull games out on the road, you're going to put yourself in pretty favorable position come March Madness.
Well, unfortunately, two teams at the bottom of the Big Ten that are not in a favorable position, Nebraska and my other team in the Big Ten, my beloved Northwestern Wildcats, 1-11 in the conference. Is Chris Collins on the hot seat at NU?
Well, I tell you what, it could be. He's been there since the 2013-14 season. And I know they really had high aspirations as he took over. Of course, his dad was always my idol growing up. I'll never forget him hitting those two big free throws against the Russians in the '72 Olympics with a couple seconds left, only to lose on a very, very controversial finish.
Yeah,
one that stuck in my craw probably as a fifth grader back then. But certainly. The last few years has not been, I think, where they were expecting to be. So, just really, right now, 1-11 in the Big Ten. In fact, they're 6-16 overall, and they've had some bad losses at home where they've been really blown out, 20-plus points, and certainly that's not going to sit well with alumni. But you'd love to see him turn it around there. But, right now, them and Nebraska certainly are the doormats of the Big Ten, no question about it.
Yeah, I would love to see Chris Collins turn it around. Duck Collins, of course, is whom he was referring to earlier, hit two big free throws against the Russians. He was also Michael Jordan's coach for the Bulls for 3 seasons, so there's a lot of Chicago lineage there. Let's look in your backyard at Ohio State, 5-7 in the conference, though they're 15-8 overall. Again, let's outline the point you talked about earlier, 11-2 at home, 3-5 on the road. That ain't good.
Yeah, right now, Ohio State's kind of one of those bubble teams, there's going to be 4 teams that have to play right away in that Big Ten tournament, and certainly Nebraska, Northwestern are going to be 2 of them, but the other 2 spots are going to be filled probably by either Ohio State, Indiana, or Michigan, 2 of those 3 schools. But I do like Ohio State, not just because I've lived here in the Buckeye State for the last 30 years, but the fact that I think Chris Holtmann gets a lot out of his guys. They play with a lot of energy. They're awfully good at home there. The Schottenstein Center's been really good to them. They're 11-2 this year, but they've had their road woes just like a lot of other teams in the Big Ten. And they went through a stretch there where they just could not buy a win. But the one thing I liked about Ohio State, even through the losses, they typically compete game in, game out. And even in their losses, it's not like they rolled over and they got beat by 20-some points to somebody. These guys usually take it down the wire. They've had a tough time finishing. They've had a couple guys injured that have not played this season. They had another guy that, stepped off for some medical reasons to get his kind of life in order. So, they've got some holes to fill. They're not going to use that as an excuse, but they certainly have a thin bench. And I think that's really kind of made it tough on them. But you have to like the way those guys fight game in, game out. I think somehow they're going to find a way, kind of sneak into that middle tier of the Big Ten. Well, they'll get 1 bye in the Big Ten tournament, but they certainly won't get the 2 byes. Those spots, I think, are going to be reserved for, I'm guessing right now, Maryland, Penn State, Michigan State, and Illinois.
That's the 4 that's on top right now. And let's look at those top 2, Maryland and Penn State. Maryland 20-4, Penn State 19-5. Each of those 2 teams coming into this week, they've won 7 consecutive games, and Maryland has really taken off at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, when you can string together 7 straight wins during the course of the Big Ten season, that's really speaking volumes. And, whoever thought we'd talk about Penn State and Maryland doing that this season here, but what a job Mark Turgeon's done with the Maryland Turpins, and of course the job Pat Chambers has done at Penn State there with the Nittany Lions. Those guys are 12-1 at home. Maryland's 14-0 at home, and they've had a lot of success. I really like the way those teams are playing. They've got some quality wins. They're certainly going to have an impressive resume when the NCAA tournament committee decides the brackets for March Madness. So I like those two right there. And then the rest of it kind of gets interesting. You have a Michigan State team that's been up and down and always a dangerous tournament out. And, of course, Iowa's had a tremendous season, and Illinois as well. So it's certainly going to be a dogfight, I think, for those top four spots. But right now I like the Fighting Illini, I like the Spartans, and I like the Nittany Lions, and, of course, I like Maryland.
Those would be the top four, and I'm really cheering for Illinois to get one of those top four seeds in the Big Ten tournament. Let's look at Rutgers. Rutgers 17-7, 8-5 in conference play, and again highlighting a point. It's become a theme here of our conversations today. 16-0 in New Jersey.
And 1-5 on the road.
Absolutely.
That's impressive. Anytime I don't care who you are, but if you can hold service at home, especially in the Big Ten, that speaks volumes. So Rutgers certainly is a dangerous team. 17 wins on the season. Those guys have won. The Scarlet Knights have won 11 of the last 15 games, so they're starting to get more and more confidence, I think, as this Big Ten season unwinds. They just have to get that signature win on the road. I think if they can get that, I think that's really going to catapult them. They're certainly one of, I think, it's going to be 11 teams that make the NCAA tournament for the Big Ten.
How about Michigan? Do you think they have a shot at getting in the tournament? The season started so high. Of course, their new coach, Juwan Howard, former Michigan player, alumnus of Michigan, had them playing so well at the beginning of the season, and now you look at them, 5-7 within the conference. They're 14-9 overall. You expected some growing pains, but they were playing over their heads for a really big portion of the season.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Snowman. I think they were. There was so much hype with Juwan Howard taking over this year. You had so many, especially the Cali J students, but a lot of alumni. They were certainly all behind that, and they certainly still are. And those guys got out of the gates. They had some big wins early, and they really had momentum going their way. But they've kind of hit a standstill here, and they're one of those bubble teams. Right now they're really fighting to stay out of that opening round game there in the Big Ten tournament. They're hoping to at least get that one bye, try to sneak in as maybe the number 10 seed or so. But they certainly, that's no guarantee. They're going to have to somehow find a way to finish above Ohio State and Indiana, who both right now have identical 5-7 records in the Big Ten. So certainly, this is a fun time of year because all these games certainly mean a lot down the stretch here, and you're playing really, for your tournament success here. You want to set yourself up to not have to play in that opening round of that Big Ten tournament. So I think the Wolverines have their hands full, but certainly Juwan Howard knows that. He's got some good guys. They just really haven't quite meshed as I think they thought they would after such a great start.
It's the road to Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, the site of the Big Ten men's basketball tournament from March 11th through 15th. That man was Scoop Miller, giving you all the lowdowns and the highs of the Big Ten. He was on earlier to talk a little action on their road to the conference tournament that's held in Cleveland. Great to have you on, my friend. I certainly hope to have you on more as we take everybody to and through March Madness until a champion is crowned in Atlanta.
Well, Snowman, I always love talking hoops, and it's just you're living a dream. You get to go out and watch these games. You get paid to talk about them, and you see some quality basketball, and you see teams and players, fighting to continue to play on. Some of these college seniors are trying to get that W just to keep playing, not only to make the tournament, to keep going to the tournament. And you see guys leave it all out there on the floor each and every night. It doesn't get much better than that. And what a great seat in the house to have. But But we've got some great basketball here in the Midwest, you know, with the MAC right in our backyard and the Big Ten. And we've been treated some great games. You know, got a chance to see Bob Knight come back to Assembly Hall just recently. What a moment there in IU. You know, kind of a long time coming. It's been a tough ride here for the Hoosiers, but certainly seeing Bob Knight there brought back a lot of great memories for the fine people of Indiana.
Scoop Miller joining me to talk some college hoops. As mentioned, we take you to and through the championship weekend at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Good to talk to you, my friend.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Snowman. Thanks for having me on.
I'm not done yet, folks. We got some more for you in a flash. All right, folks. There's a young man that I have not had on the show in over a week. And now that the season has concluded, I get to have him on again because we kind of missed a connection. Mike DeBate joins me. And Mike, have you got your ears on, my friend?
Always for you, my friend. I've got my ears on. I'm locked and loaded and ready to go. Been a long time since we've spoken, but all good, and I always love coming on. Thank you for having me on, Brian.
Man, I love having you on. This is Mike DeBate of Full Press Coverage. Of course, he joins me to talk NFL. The season has concluded. Chiefs and the 49ers. Let's start with the world champion Chiefs. They 21 points in 6 minutes. Nothing but praise for both of these teams, and one hell of a Super Bowl that they put on.
Yeah, tremendous game for both teams, if you think about it. When you look at it, 49ers definitely had their chances. The Chiefs, credit them. Tip your cap to both teams. Patrick Mahomes definitely showed that he is among, if not a top, of the elite quarterbacks in this league. I can't say enough about the game that he had. Damian Williams, as a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, was phenomenal in this game. You can make the argument that he could have been considered for the MVP along with Mahomes. I don't think they necessarily made a bad decision by giving it to Patrick, but Williams, I thought, had a tremendous game as well. Got to credit the Kansas City defense. They made stops when they needed to. I thought on the San Francisco side, I thought they played very well on defense, well enough to win this. Just unfortunately, it came down to Kansas City making more plays than San Francisco did in the latter part of the game. So a great Super Bowl, great victory for the Chiefs. But if you're a Niners fan, fear not. This team's going to be back, and they're going to be ready to go in 2020.
And don't be surprised. And I said this right after the game. You know, I went to bed, and my wife said, did the 49ers win? I said, nope, the Chiefs did. And she looked at me, and she had that smile. And before I could say anything, she spits out, don't be surprised if these two have a repeat performance in 2020 when we're in Tampa. And I say the same thing. Don't be surprised if these two go at it again 1 year from now.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. You take a look at the way these two teams are constituted, the way they're built. They have the better part of their cores coming back. Very few off-season questions for either one of these teams. So you look at it, they're primed for another repeat performance. Of course, me being up here in New England, I hope that one other player is playing maybe a game in Tampa. Let's make the hope. You can't make the assumption that guy's coming back. I love to believe he will be, but in actuality, no. I think you look at these two teams, and right now they have to be the favorites in their two conferences simply because of the fact that they're the two hottest teams right now. And like I said, there are very few off-season questions for the Chiefs and for the 49ers. So if they can keep that core intact, and by all accounts they should, these two teams seem to be on a collision course once again. Let's take a look inside of the rumor mill, and I heard something that got my ears peaked, and it got my attention peaked. It concerns wide receiver A.J. Green. Of course, now with the Cincinnati Bengals, there's a rumor flying around right now that A.J. Green may change his Bengals stripes for Gold Rush stripes. There's a lot of people saying right now that the favorite to land A.J. Green resides in the Bay. Can you imagine how dangerous that receiver core will be if A.J. Green does indeed wind up signing with San Francisco? It will be, and that's a very interesting spot for him. I did hear the same rumors, and I've heard a lot of rumblings about, of course, up here in New England, a lot of people seem to think that he's rumored to the Patriots an awful lot. To tell you the truth, I really don't see that. I don't think AJ is the type of receiver that would come up here and be able to succeed right off the bat. I think the 49ers offense is tailor-made for him. I think the way that they play and the types of routes that they run in San Francisco makes it a little bit easier for a guy like A.J. Green to come in and assimilate very quickly. To me, I think that's a great spot for him. You pair him right alongside a guy like Deebo Samuel, all of a sudden you're taking a look at a guy that can run the backfield, have those jet sweep motions, and then a pure take the top off the defense receiver in A.J. Green, even a guy that can drop back and play the slot a little bit. So this could be a very interesting fit for them, especially if you believe the rumors that Emmanuel Sanders could go either way at this point. That there's rumors that he may move on. There's rumors that he loves San Francisco and would love to stick around. I personally, as someone that's followed the Niners the last few years, I think that's a great spot for Emmanuel, and I think he can help to build that young wide receiver core that they have in San Francisco. But A.J. Green would be an interesting fit for them. The one thing that you want to be careful of if you're a Niners fan or if you're a part of the Niners organization is the injury history and the difficulties that he's had staying on the field. If he can figure out a way to get that taken care of, then that's definitely one of the more formidable wide receivers in the league, and he can definitely help a team, especially a team like the 49ers. He may even put them over the top.
And don't forget, folks, not only did the 49ers draft Deebo Samuel, they drafted another receiver, out of Baylor in Jalen Hurd, who spent this year on IR. And can you imagine that core, should A.J. Green sign with San Francisco and keep Emmanuel Sanders, and all indications are by this Niner fan and insider that Emmanuel Sanders will stay in San Francisco. Of course, Deebo Samuel, that's 3, and then you put a 4th receiver out there in Jalen Hurd. Then, of course, you got to add George Kittle to the mix. You want to talk about some weaponry. Garoppolo, as it stands right now, and we don't know where A.J. Green is going to land, as it stands right now, with Jalen Hurd coming back from injury and the possibility of A.J. Green coming to the Bay, this passing game is going to get another serious upgrade.
Amazing. And you think about the running game that San Francisco already employs by putting these guys alongside a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, being able to utilize those weapons, it only adds another dimension to his game. I thought Jimmy played a serviceable game in the Super Bowl. I think he's getting a lot of undue criticism for the job that he did in the second half. I think a lot of that was breakdowns in communication. I think a lot of it was play calling. These things needed to be shored up. Unfortunately, for the 49ers, it just didn't end up working out. And a lot of that has to be credited to the Kansas City defense, too, who I think played their best game of the season. And I think that's why they ended up winning the Super Bowl. But getting back to Green, putting him in a San Francisco uniform does change the dimension. And you mentioned Jalen Hurd. Hurd and Samuel were 2 guys that I scouted pretty heavily last year in doing my draft prep and analysis going into the 2019 draft. I liked them for the Patriots. I really thought that either one of those players, as a matter of fact, in a couple of different mocks that I did, I mocked Samuel going to the Patriots in one and Hurd going in the other. So these 2 guys being a part of that offense with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, again, studied under the greatest of all time. He studied under Tom Brady. So that type of synergy, if he can find it with that wide receiver core, again, that only makes them that much more dangerous in trying to defend that NFC title.
And what's going to be even more dangerous for Jimmy Garoppolo, and you said this earlier in the season. In fact, you said it before Week 17 when they went to Seattle and won the NFC West, which you and I both correctly predicted, by the way. We still don't know the ceiling of Jimmy Garoppolo because he's coming back from an absolutely horrific injury. And except for one game this year, late in the 4th quarter, and it was against Carolina, Jimmy Garoppolo took every single snap under center.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And you learned a lot about Jimmy's durability this year. And I think that, if you're a Niners fan, that really gives you a lot of, I guess the best way to, a lot of optimism in terms of what that means for this coming season. To me, that was one of the biggest question marks on Jimmy was, will he be durable enough to make it through an entire season? Unfortunately, and as much as I like Jimmy an awful lot, that was a question mark that I had. He really hadn't had an opportunity to prove that he could stay healthy. In the season where he took over for Tom Brady here in New England for a few games, he did end up missing the last 2 games because of injury. And a lot of people were wondering if injuries played into the fact that the Patriots chose to move on from Tom Brady and move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and keep Tom Brady at the time. Obviously, that ended up being the decision that was the right one for both teams. But with Jimmy this year showing that he can play a full 16-game season deep into the playoffs, play well into February, that's something that is a very encouraging sign. I think a lot of the growth that you're going to see in Jimmy this year is decision-making, maybe a little bit more poise in the pocket, maybe a little less reluctance to throw the football away. I think you're going to see a lot of that. Maybe I'm taking a few more sacks. These are types of things that you see quarterbacks develop as they start to come into their own. This is going to be a big year for Jim, and I think he's up to the challenge.
I think he's up to the challenge also. And that 49er defense, you can't give them enough credit, even though it just seems like they ran out of gas, in the Super Bowl with Kansas City coming on like they did, and we both talked about them. But this San Francisco team, especially their defense, played way over their heads and out of their minds and got them to Miami. This defense is strong enough to get them to Tampa next year. And with the way this unit played, there were many questions going into the season, and you and I posed a lot of them on this program about how they will mesh together. I think we got our answer.
We definitely did. And if there's one thing, if you're a Niners fan, that going into, and it's their ability to be able to make plays and shut teams down. For 3 quarters, they held the most prolific and the most productive quarterback really to look like an average mere mortal at times. And that's not an easy thing to do, not the way Mahomes played in this postseason. So when you look at what they can do with the front 7 of San Francisco, the linebacking core, and the way that the secondary has shown that they're capable of playing, this is a defense that is set to compete for a good number of years. If I'm the Niners, if I'm looking for any help, it probably would be in the secondary. I'd like to see them maybe beef up the safety position a little bit, get a little more depth at that position. I think that's something that can add a little more pop and a little more strength to their lineup. But that front 7 is an absolute monster. The 4-man rush that they put on in the Super Bowl was a thing of beauty to watch. It really was. And had the 49ers been able to make a couple of offensive plays, this could have been a different outcome, and we might have been having a parade in San Francisco rather than Kansas City a couple of weeks ago. But I wouldn't worry too much about the defense for the 49ers. I think they're poised to make another run and another deep run in the playoffs in 2020.
And every other team's fan base in the NFC West has gotten a hold of me, and they're saying, "Oh, you guys got lucky." This ain't luck, folks. This is a team that grew up right before our eyes. And I go back to the conversation we had before the Super Bowl. In fact, Super Bowl week, someone asked me if you were to pick a game that identified the 49ers season, and I hate saying this to another fan base which have become friends of mine. If you were to pick a game that identifies the 49ers season and how far over the curve they were, you got to look at that game in New Orleans.
Absolutely. I think that really is the game that solidified their claim on the NFC. That's the game that I watched because I had been high on New Orleans pretty much all season long. I'll be honest with you. New Orleans was my Super Bowl pick preseason in 2019. I predicted the New England Patriots, the New Orleans Saints Super Bowl. I thought they were going to face the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, but I believed that the New Orleans Saints were going to ride a hot hand in Drew Brees, and in my opinion, a pretty good defense to be able to get to that point. The 49ers being able to win, especially in the fashion that they won in a shootout, knowing that the defense was not going to be able to stop a prolific offense like the Saints, but they could match them point for point. To me, that proved any type of doubt that you had about the 49ers and their ability to score points. That game put that to rest. I looked at the 49ers in a whole new light after that. I had really become a believer all season long because of the information you had been giving me and, turning me on to this team and what they could do offensively. But this was at another level, and it really showed me that this was a championship caliber team. And from that point on, I looked at them as such, as they were the team to beat in the NFC, and they proved to be that.
And after my first appearance in the preseason on Locked On Patriots, when we talked about if there are any teams that could unseat the Patriots, we briefly talked about if there are any teams that could surprise out of the NFC, and the first team that was in my head was San Francisco. And a lot of people thought I was crazy when I said that in August, But at the same time, as the season went on, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, eventually 8-0 before they lost their first game in a gutty effort against the Seattle Seahawks at Levi's Stadium. And remember, the first time the 49ers and the Seahawks hooked up, the 49ers were really beat up, and they were minus George Kittle, who was out for 2 games with a significant injury. They were minus Kyle Juszczyk, who was out with a significant injury. When the playoffs came around, the 49ers were healthy. That game in Seattle got them the rest they needed. And I think it gave the 49ers a lot of confidence going forward into 2020 that, yes, they can go into Seattle and beat them there just like they did the last Sunday in December.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the postseason, most of the postseason gave them the confidence that they need to propel forward. Look, when you beat teams that are supposed to beat you, it really is it's a big feather in your cap. Now, granted, San Francisco 49ers were the top dog. They knew that going into this postseason. However, there were still a lot of doubters. People looked at it, and I don't want to say that, and this is not how I feel in the least, but sometimes people will look at you as a paper number 1 seed or a de facto number 1 seed, and someone that you feel, well, there are teams out there that are a little bit deeper, that have a little bit more pedigree, that have a little bit more experience, that can beat you in the postseason. That means nothing when you take a look at what these teams are capable of doing in the postseason. The hot teams are the ones that ride the strong play of their strongest unit, and the San Francisco 49ers did that. They rode their running game, they rode their defense all the way to the Super Bowl. They got I thought they got pretty decent production out of their passing game in the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people will probably fight me on that. I stand by it. I don't think they played as poorly as a lot of people are making that out to be. What you saw, again, were breakdowns in communication, I think breakdowns in some of the play calling, and just running into a defense in Kansas City that really played into its own at the best possible time. So they did run into a perfect storm in the Super Bowl, but again, the growth that they showed getting to that level, to me, really solidified their place in the NFL, and they walked away from that game knowing they could win it. That's a big key for a team that wants to build on a strong Super Bowl championship type year that the San Francisco 49ers had. They walked away from that game knowing that it could have been theirs. There's no worse feeling in the world than going to a game like that and coming away and saying we had absolutely no shot. When you know that you're close and you know that you have a shot, it only makes you that much more hungry to get back and to prove to everyone that year one was not a fluke. I believe that's exactly what you're going to see out of the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Which brings me to the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champions, their first since Super Bowl IV. And the way that they played in the second half of the season and in the second half of the Super Bowl. Hell, let's look at the second half of all 3 of their playoff wins. Down by 10-plus points, 3 separate games. Division round against Houston, AFC title against Tennessee, Super Bowl against San Francisco, and they were able to win all 3 by double digits. It just shows you the depth of the Kansas City Chiefs. Give them all the credit and all the praise in the world. They definitely earned this world championship.
Absolutely. A team that falls down double digits to teams like the Houston Texans, the Tennessee Titans, and the eventual NFC champion, the San Francisco 49ers, you fall down to that level. It's amazing that you're able to come back from one of those games, let alone all 3. It also goes to show you how prolific that offense can be once the pilot is lit. And that's exactly what Patrick Mahomes did. He turned it up exactly when he needed to do that. He got very good play from his wide receiver core. Can't say enough about Travis Kelce and the job that he's done in the postseason. And also Damian Williams, again, in the Super Bowl, I think played a tremendous game. So between those 3 factors, plus a defense that played a lot better than people gave it credit for all year long. I think the Kansas City defense was vastly underrated all season long. You talk about the job that Chris Jones did at the defensive tackle position. He was a huge force in being able to help contain the San Francisco running game just when the Kansas City Chiefs needed him to do that. Frank Clark stepped up very big. Tyrann Mathieu had a tremendous season, and I think was one of the real game changers when it came to the Kansas City defense this year. But the guy I give a ton of credit to is Steve Spagnuolo. He came in and changed that whole complexity, that whole attitude of Kansas City. He made them an aggressive defense. He made them a defense that was ball hawking. They went after it. They weren't afraid to pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. They didn't play it conservatively as they did in 2018. 2019 was all about putting the pedal to the metal and trying to beat teams at their own game. You saw the Kansas City Chiefs do that. They peaked at the right time, and that's why they were Super Bowl champions. And again, hats off to them because they had a tremendous postseason.
They absolutely had a tremendous postseason, and this will put a wrap up for us on the 2019 NFL season, and it'll also kick open the door to the NFL season for 2020. Of course, we're going to be covering it all off season. We'll begin with free agency, who goes where, and there are some very interesting names in free agency. When I have him back next week, I have some quarterback questions, but we'll save that for next week. He is Mike DeBake, the man in charge of Locked On Patriots on the Locked On Podcast Network, and one of the men in charge of Full Press coverage. He joins me every week to talk NFL. Always a good time to have you on, my friend.
Always a pleasure to join you, my friend. 2019 was great. I wish it could have been a little bit happier of an ending for you, but if it's any consolation, I think 2020 might be just as bright, if not brighter, on the horizon. But I enjoyed covering the season with you this year. We put a wrap on it. On to 2020, buddy. Can't wait.
On to 2020, my friend. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Brian. Have a great day.
Speaking of putting a wrap, that'll put a wrap on this one, as I thank you for joining me for this edition of the program. I want you all to have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until next time.
Hey, and welcome to On and Off the Field. We have just completed week 1 of the XFL 2020 inaugural season. I think I said that word right. We are here, and we're ready to celebrate and see if the XFL is going to work or not. And I say we because Fred is back for week 2.
Oh, hey.
He's back for week 1, but his second week. Guess I gotta clarify
consecutive
that.
Week as co-host.
Yeah, second consecutive week, and this is much better. We're in a much better spot than we were because we did it through Skype last time. And if you thought the audio was bad, that's because it was. The audio was garbage, and I apologize for all of that. But now we have this sick setup in like the spare room of my house upstairs. We got 2 mics. We got this like $160 interface thing. We went all out.
Oh yeah.
We're making this an official thing.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're doing it.
We're doing this for you.
Yeah.
We're giving you the best quality content possible. So you're welcome for that. And it's the first time with it. So actually, I say that I'm going to give you the best quality content. But if it ends up sounding terrible, well, it'll be fixed by next week.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, we gotta. We'll tinker, but I feel like it's gonna be good. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
So, on and off the field, go and like us on the Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter, because I think this is the first week I'm actually announcing it.
Yeah, I think it is.
We can do the giveaway. It's official. If you're already following on Facebook and Instagram, maybe not Twitter. I don't think I put on Twitter, but if you're following, you know that we're doing the giveaway, and you have to do the 3 things. Fred, what are those 3 things?
Those 3 things are liking us on Instagram and Facebook, going to iTunes and leaving a review of the podcast and telling us what you think. And then also going to the onandoffthefield.com and sending an email, and in the email it has to say, "All hail the Jockstrap King."
I had him do it because I didn't remember what the 3 things were. I had to pull it up on my phone, and he's like, "Oh, I know what those 3 things are." I was like, "Oh, all right, well, go for it. That's fine."
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to onandoffthefield.com, you just got to like scroll to the bottom, and there's like a contact us section. That's the email portion of it. So you just got to, go there and just say whatever you want. You can say like, "Hey, your podcast sucks," but as long as it includes "All hail the Jockstrap King" in it, like, you'll be entered anyways. So
That's the key word there.
And I initially announced 1 winner, $50, but now there's 3.
Oh, dang.
There are 3 winners, and those first 2 people, it's up to you if this really matters to you or not. The first name drawn out of those, we're gonna do it live on the show, probably maybe like first week of March. We're gonna give a lot of time for people to enter this. First name drawn, we will give you a nickname that will forever live on this show.
Nice. Are we gonna have them call in so we can get verbally give them their nickname?
Absolutely.
That sounds like a good plan.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then you can give us some details about you.
Yeah.
And we can make sure we give you the proper nickname to go forward. What's your nickname? You got a nickname, don't you?
Mine?
Yeah.
Durf.
Durf.
It's just read backwards.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
That was his name for our entire bowling league last year. It's good. It's good. I don't have a nickname. I do have a nickname, but I don't like it. The second name drawn, Fred and myself will autograph something for you.
Oh, yeah.
That autograph is worthless. You cannot sell it for anything, but we will still do it.
Whatever you want us to sign, and we'll sign it.
It could be literally anything.
Just not legally binding.
And also, it's an illegal substance. I can't. I don't want to be. Don't send me your crack pipe to sign. And the third name, everyone knows this one. $50 to your favorite charity or foundation, and you can come on the show and talk about the charity or the foundation, or we can do it for you, whatever you prefer. And if you want, we can also give you a nickname and autograph something for you as well.
Yeah,
only if you want.
I feel like the third name drawn. I feel like it's like the grand prize winner.
Absolutely,
like, you get everything if you want it.
Yeah, you're the grand prize winner of the random drawing.
Yeah,
just good for you. Like, you're just really lucky.
Oh, yeah.
I would never be that person.
No.
I'm not a lucky person.
No.
So far, I've received no emails, but it's only been out there for a little while. So, you guys got time. I'm not going to rush this. Get it done by next week. No, you got time. We're going to do it a month from now, whenever. I'm just going to be posting it. You got all the time in the world. Alrighty? So, that's the giveaway. You can head down to offthefield.com like we said. And you can go to the listen page, and you can listen to the podcast from there, and you can hit up all the links on there and subscribe to your favorite channel. And you can also like the RTF Sports Network on Spreaker, and On and Off the Field will be on there Thursdays at 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. They got a commercial now. I posted that on Facebook. It's super cool.
Oh, yeah?
Did you see it yet?
I don't know if I have.
It's really cool.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, someone else made it from the show, but it's cool. It just cool. Goes from show to show.
Yeah.
It shows their logo and then what time they're on.
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
Action-y. It's cool.
Nice.
I like it. They did a good job.
Sweet.
So, yeah, we're going to dive into the actual show now because that's what we're here to do. So, obviously, it's the NFL off season, and we're only, 2 weeks into the off season?
Yeah.
Not a lot's going on. And in my opinion, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL, it's a good time for them to stay quiet.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The XFL's getting going. Major League Baseball has their thing going on with, they got training camp starting up, but they got the scandal. The best thing the NFL can do is just not be there.
Oh, yeah. Yep, definitely. And all the other sports can have their time right now.
Yeah.
Basketball's up and running right now, getting heated up. College basketball's heated up right now.
Anything with an orange ball sucks, in my opinion.
Well,
college basketball's been a disaster this year.
That is very true. Hockey's going right now.
Hockey's fun, though.
Lacrosse is on right now.
I like lacrosse. Syracuse won their season opener.
Did they?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's the only lacrosse team I follow.
Yeah.
I really don't follow lacrosse. I just like to hang out with Syracuse, but they're pretty good. They're like ranked 6th in the nation.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty good. But, so the NFL is really quiet, and I gave them my own personal quota of one piece of news a day. That's what I'm allowing them. That's their quota, that you can come out and say one cool thing that happened today.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that has been happening yesterday, at least, was the Chargers and Phillip Rivers, to no one's surprise, have officially parted ways.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm blown away by that news. Nobody saw this coming. Except, everyone knew it was going to happen, 4 weeks ago.
Well, at least they didn't drag it out like the Cowboys did with Jason Garrett. So
that's true.
I mean, at least they're nope, yeah, we're moving on.
And I think they did it in a respectful and fair way for, he was there for 16 years. I mean, that's...
Yeah, because he came in with Eli and Roethlisberger, so yeah, it's been 16.
And the only question is where will he land?
We'll find out next month, maybe.
Maybe not. Yeah, what is it? Free agency and tampering all start March 10th?
Free agency...
18th?
I think it's the 18th.
Is it 18th?
Yeah.
It's one of those weeks.
I think it's a Thursday or Friday, I think. It's a weird... It's the end of the week, I think.
18 sounds right.
I think it's right after St. Patrick's Day. So if it's St. Patrick's Day, then the 18th would be a Wednesday.
Wow, you really know your St. Patrick's Day trivia.
Only because I asked for certain days off next month already, so...
And that's one of them?
The Sunday before, yeah.
So you got your stuff figured out. You're good to go.
Oh, yeah.
So no one knows where he's going to land. You can speculate all you want about Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Cam Newton, Marcus Mariota, Bridgewater. You can speculate about whatever you want. Nobody knows what's going to happen. None of these people are guaranteed to land anywhere. I mean... People have said Tom Brady can go to 5 different teams. Yeah. And I also saw that even people in the league have no idea what he's going to do.
Right.
You can speculate, and you can make a strong case for your argument, and you can make it sound good. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's very up in the air. I mean, that's the thing about February, too. It's so much speculation. And it's why? Just find something else to talk about and move on.
Well, we have plenty to talk about this season, at least.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's XFL, and there is also Project Codebreaker. That's like some James Bond stuff right there.
Oh, yeah.
Project Codebreaker. But when you dive into it, it's just super nerdy garbage.
It really is.
I love it, though. It's so amazing.
The fact that they got an intern to do it, too, it's
no paper trail.
No paper trail.
No, unless you got college credits.
Well, yeah.
Do you think he made a report about it, to his college professor? So what did you do with your internship at the Houston Astros? I made them Project Codebreaker, where they got to cheat and steal signals. It was awesome. A+.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would be fine with this entire scandal. Okay, cool. So they made an Excel program where they can jot down the different signals that that the pitching coaches do, like hat tip, shoulder rub, titty touch, leg slap, whatever the things are,
right.
And they diagnose it in this Excel program, and it's supposed to tell you what the pitch is supposed to be, and they can buzz Altuve's chest before the pitch comes. That's the general consensus, or they can hit some drums, whatever.
Wasn't it something like smashing trash cans or something?
Yeah, that was the other one.
Yeah.
So they just cheated on so many levels. Because before it was the camera in the outfield.
Right.
And then they were banging on drums, and then they were buzzing chests, and now you got Project Codebreaker. With every single passing day, I feel like Major League Baseball has to take their World Series away.
Oh, yeah. I think it's got to be at least the Astros.
You have to take it away.
I thought the Red Sox were caught with it, too.
No one cares, though.
Well, yeah.
That was so minor.
Right.
If it was just the Red Sox, that's all we would talk about was the Red Sox.
Right.
But they look like they committed a misdemeanor, while
right.
the Astros over here killed the president.
Jeez.
That's basically where we're at right now with Project Codebreaker now coming out. And the absolute worst part about all of this, in my opinion, is when this first broke, the front office said, we knew nothing about this. This was all the manager, this was all A.J. Hinch, this was all the players, we knew nothing. Now, the Washington Post reports on Project Codebreaker. This all started in the front office. This is where it began. They started it. And they lied from the beginning saying it wasn't them.
Right. I feel like it would have had to been from them. Like, who else is going to think of that? That makes that much money.
It's just amazing how what people think they can get away with these days.
Right.
There's technology.
Oh, yeah.
And people want to be famous, so they're going to talk. So I don't know who they interviewed to figure out about Project Codebreaker, but I'm sure they went and found that intern.
Oh, they found somebody.
I mean, I didn't read the article. I don't know who they interviewed, but someone talked. And I just love it. I love all of it. And the Astros season is going to be a living hell.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Good luck going on the road.
Any road game is going to be terrible for them.
Did the Astros have a game in LA this year? Did the Dodgers?
Ooh. That would be...
They're going to need, like, professional security guards.
Are they going to put it on a neutral stadium, not LA?
They would probably get shot entering LA. Someone would tip over those buses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, because the Dodgers have been both times.
It was the Dodgers with the recent cheating, and then they also, beat the Yankees in the World Series? Or no, they beat them in the ALCS or something, and that's why Yankees fans are mad. Yeah. And then they beat the Dodgers in the World Series. Mm-hmm. So, but they beat how many teams throughout the regular season, though? I mean, everyone's mad.
I mean, they basically cheated against everybody, so that's a wash of a season. I think they're not World Series champions.
And then there was a Blue Jays pitcher, I think it was Blue Jays, who, this guy played against the Astros, pitched against the Astros.
Yep.
Like 4 pitches, 4 home runs. He was benched, sent down to AAA, and then released. He is now suing the league, or the Astros are one of them, for $31 million.
What?
For, because he got sent down and released, and his career ended against the Astros, who were apparently cheating when he was up there pitching.
Oh.
So he's like, well, my career earnings would have been $31 million. I'm suing you for that because you ruined my career for cheating.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's nuts.
I thought I don't know if he's going to win that, but hey, Godspeed, man.
Yeah.
I think he has a case, but
I think he does too.
I don't think he's going to get $31 million out of it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back with On and Off the Field. Project Codebreaker. I want to come up with a cool Project something name for the podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Like Project Podcast Breaker. Something cool like that. I'm going to go hire that intern.
Oh, yeah?
I'm going to go find that intern to give the podcast a cool name. But for now, we're stuck with On and Off the Field is the name.
Yeah.
So we're back, and we're going to talk XFL now. If you came for the XFL talk, this is your time because we're going to go hard in the paint on Week 1 XFL news. Fred, give me your rating out of 10. After your initial Week 1, you saw it. It finally happened. XFL 2020. Out of 10, what do you think?
My personal rating, I feel like it's like an 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah, I feel like... So I was doing other things while the games were on. So I wasn't entirely focused. But there were certain points that drew me in. And it was interesting to see how all the new rules played out. And I feel like that was... I feel like the XFL did really, really well for Week 1. But I feel like next weekend's games, I feel like I'm going to be able to pay more attention to them. And I feel like I'll be able to really get a better rating for that.
I had a pretty similar rating.
Yeah.
I mean, I was teetering between 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I probably could do 8.5. I was trying to do whole numbers for some reason.
Oh, I'm just going for decimals.
8.5 is a good number. I think I might steal it. I originally was going to say 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved pretty much everything that happened.
Right.
The only reason it's a 9 out of 10 is because there was a couple of levels of play issue.
Yep.
I realize... If you haven't accepted this yet, the XFL is going to be pro football, it's going to be the NFL. No.
No.
This is a semi-pro
totally
league.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's the AAF.
Right.
Because, 1, this has a little bit more talent, and 2, it's more entertaining.
It definitely has better hits than the AAF, so...
Fontez Burfict is looking for a roster spot right now. He's like, I can do that.
Oh, jeez.
I'm allowed to kill people? Let me in. He's knocking on Vince's door. Let's go.
Oh, man.
That's Vince McMahon, if anyone was wondering who Vince is. So, yeah, level of play issues. But it wasn't terrible because there was 3 of the games were blowouts. Like, they were kind of close in the first half, and then they got blown out in the second half. And then the only game that was close was the St. Louis Battlehawks against the Dallas Renegades. And, it was 15-9. I wasn't even looking at my notes. I just knew that. That's pretty good.
It is really good.
It was 15-9, and it wasn't a good defensive game or anything. It was just I just thought it was a bad game. The offense has just struggled tremendously.
Yeah, and I think that was the game that I tried to sit down and really focus on.
Bad one.
And it was not a good one to do that.
Bad pick.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah.
The earlier game on Sunday, I was doing my taxes, and I was listening to it and trying to peek up and look every once in a while and just kind of watch it for a little bit. But then I finished everything, and I'm like, all right, now I can sit down and really watch some XFL, and not a good choice.
Yeah, Sunday's games were just worse than Saturdays in general because the Vipers got blown out. They couldn't do anything
they
all
were bad.
day. I think, we'll get into the games.
Yeah.
I was about to go hardcore on that game right now and talk some things, but we got stuff there. But so we're going to talk a little bit more overview of the XFL. So we both got our ratings. It was about an 8.5. And what was your number one favorite thing about the games themselves, or just the overall feeling? What was your number one thing you honed in on and you were like, yes, that's amazing?
I mean, for me, I thought it was kickoffs. I thought kickoffs were number one, just because it's so different, and I feel like it's so much better. It looks weird, but I feel like next weekend it's gonna look completely normal. After week 1, it's completely normal now, and then if the NFL can adopt that, great. If not, their loss.
I think the kickoffs are a huge win. I listed it as my number 2, but I mean the kickoffs. The number one thing the XFL's goal was, and it's obvious to anybody, the XFL's goal in creating these rules was to attack the weaknesses of the NFL.
Oh, absolutely.
And one of those weaknesses was the kickoff. The NFL adopted this player safety first thing, and instead of being creative like the XFL, they just said, hey, we're going to move the kickoff up to the 35-yard line and create more touchbacks.
Yep.
Okay, so you just turned one of the most exciting plays in football into the least exciting.
Right.
Now it's touchbacks, or now they can, if the returner takes it out of the end zone, he's not even making it to the 25 where it would come out to.
Right.
The XFL, being creative, they put them on the kicking team on the 35, the return defense on the 30-yard line, 5 yards away. The kicker kicks it. No one can move until the guy catches it.
Yep. Player
safety, check.
Oh, yep.
Exciting, check.
Yep.
No touchback, so you're guaranteed a return almost, check.
Yeah.
It's a huge win.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing negative you can say about that, in my opinion. I mean, I tried. I tuned into the game on Saturday, the Seattle Dragons game, and the reason I tuned in, well, I was going to watch all the games anyways, but the main reason I was excited, I just wanted to see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to see them lined up like that. And it was super weird.
Right, but it works, though.
It does work. It works extremely well.
Yeah.
Well, my number one, that was my number 2, was the kickoffs. My number 1 best thing was the hot mics. Hot mics everywhere. Yeah. Hot mics on the coaches, hot mics on the players, hot mics, you got the sideline reporters, which congratulations to Pat McAfee for being a sideline reporter for that. Pat, did you listen to anything? Pat McAfee slayed it.
Oh, yeah.
So now that's another loss on the NFL. The NFL never allowed Pat McAfee to do it because they know he was a wild child.
Right.
That's their loss because Pat McAfee's the XFL king now. He's doing that. Congratulations. And then you got the hot mics up in the review booth, which is my number 1.5 is just the review officials in general and how they tackle reviewing.
I feel like it's so cool to see that transparency of how an official is talking with someone up in the box about how a play happened, what they're looking at. In the NFL, you don't get that. So, is it just a judgment call, or is this are they actually doing this in the NFL? But now we're seeing it in the XFL, and I feel like it's a whole, I don't say different appreciation for the reviews, but for like the play calls with the refs. But I feel like the XFL being able to go in and review those plays just made it better. Like, yeah, they messed up. Let's go back and fix it.
Yeah, and that was apparent from game one.
Yeah.
And like near the end of the game, Seattle Dragons is the perfect example because it was the first example. Seattle Dragons looked like they came up short on a 4th and short in the running game. You know, he got hit. He tried plunging forward for the first down, and they called him short. They went up to the booth, like they just did it. No coaching challenge, no nothing. The review booth was just like, you know, this is a game-altering play.
Yep.
We're not entirely sure if he made it or not. They just reviewed it. And guess what? They put the mic on him. They put a camera up there. He has a little Xbox controller.
I saw that.
If it works, use it.
Hey, yeah.
Dude's playing Halo in between reviews, but he's got an Xbox controller up there, doing different camera angles. He's doing slow motion and fast motion, watching if he made it past the line, and they got the call right.
Yeah.
The Seattle Dragons ended up fumbling the ball 2 plays later, and it didn't matter. But hey, they got the call right.
Yep.
And we got to listen to everything he said.
Yep.
He's talking about, all right, there he is. His knee's not down yet. Looks like he's on top of a player. And then you get to hear him call it down. All right, we're going to call him first down from like the 4-yard line. And you got to hear everything.
Right.
It's a level of transparency. Again, XFL attacking the NFL's weaknesses.
Yep.
It's a level of transparency that the NFL cannot touch right now. That they're not even close to reaching.
Right.
They just... You don't like how the NFL does things with the refs. You just think they're making up whatever rules they want. Here you go. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
And it's amazing. Zero question on anything.
Right.
You get to see what they see. You get to hear what they hear. Then you get to hear what they say to each other. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I just had a thought. I'll say the one
Thoughts
thing...
move fast.
They do move fast.
Like speeding bullets.
Yeah.
It's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone.
Anytime you have a lapse of judgment or you're just thinking, I'm just going to go Project Codebreaker. And while you're thinking about it, that probably won't work. Probably just make it worse. But I got one more. It's not really a number 3, but first I guess going to hot mics. My favorite hot mic moment, and this is a clean podcast.
Yep.
So, right in the first game, also Seattle Dragons, they get in a little bit of a scuffle.
Yep.
You know, they end up throwing a flag for unnecessary roughness after the play, and I think it was the Seattle Dragons, one of their offensive linemen, were coming over to the sideline, and they just got called for a penalty. Shove a mic in his face.
Yep.
What happened there on the end of that play? This guy. Oh, you know, we're just out here. You know, things got a little. People started saying some things. You know, we're just trying to come out here and do our job. Oh no! Who's getting fined for that?
Oh boy, yeah.
You could tell though. Is right after he said that, they cut the audio.
Yeah.
Like they cut the audio off just to make sure he didn't say anything after that, but I'm sure what channel was that? ESPN got a nice fine there.
Oh yeah.
Woo.
I think that was something they had to factor in that could happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They have a whole budget set aside for people swearing on one of those mics. Yeah, definitely. Because as soon as he said that, I looked at Kayla and I was like, you're shoving mics in people's faces as they're coming off the field after things happen. Like, they're gonna say stuff, especially offensive linemen. Yep. They don't care.
No.
They're gonna say whatever they want. And he knew what was happening. He said it anyways. But one more, another piece I liked was one of the major issues with the 2001 XFL was people thought it was too closely related to the WWF, which is now the WWE, and people thought it was pretty much all in essence fake.
Right.
It's rigged, you know, it's just another show that Vince McMahon's putting on, whatever, it's just no one cares about this. We want football.
Right.
All 4 games. Did you even hear Vince's name mentioned?
Nope.
Was there a camera on Vince McMahon's face?
Didn't even know he was there.
He wasn't. He stayed as far away as possible from these games because he does not want to repeat. He doesn't want anyone thinking, I'm here to make this a show about me, anything like that. He stayed away, and he let the football be football.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly successful, and not one person saying, you know, it's a show, it's a repeat, Vince was there. There's no controversy coming out of this week. There's nothing except positiveness.
Right. I think it's great.
People can speculate about the future of the XFL,
Yeah.
which we're about to do.
Oh, yeah.
But coming out of week one, there is really nothing that you can say that was negative unless you want to talk about the level of play more.
Right, and I think that's... Yeah, you gotta get over it. Everyone who says that has to get over it. Like,
it's semi-pro.
Yeah.
90% of these players you've never heard of before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like P.J. Walker threw 4 touchdowns.
Don't know who that is,
Cool.
but now I do.
P.J. Walker, cool guy, huh? Yeah, great. But you have easier access to people like P.J. Walker because, like, unlike in 01 when all they had was NBC, now they have...
What do we have? ABC, all the Fox Sports channels, ESPN. So, I mean, pick a channel and you're going to get a game this weekend.
And especially with new technologies. I mean, I watched the Seattle Dragons game because I was doing housework. I had it on my phone on ESPN.
Right.
You don't have to be in front of the TV.
No.
You have, ABC on the go or whatever their app is called or something. You got, like, Fox Sports Go, which I know is a thing.
Yep.
And you got, like, watch ESPN on your phone. It's all on your phone. And I think that is probably one of the main reasons they had 3.3 million people joining in.
Yeah.
As soon as the Seattle Dragons game went live, they had 3.3 million people, eyeballs on screens.
That's pretty good.
That's an incredible number for, and when we come back from our break, we're going to dive into maybe that 3.3 is not the most impressive number. It is an impressive number, but we'll talk about that as soon as we come back from our second break of on and off the field. See you in a bit. Welcome back to On and Off the Field. You are halfway through our show. Congratulations. And we're going to keep this train rolling with more XFL garbage because we're going to talk a little bit about how this year's 2020 XFL is a little bit different than 01. We hit up on, they have the more broadcast stations, makes it easier for people to watch. They have all the new technology. But we said that they came in with 3.3 million eyeballs on screens. They also had 17 to 18,000 people in stadiums.
That was impressive.
I saw a tweet from someone that said they made more in ticket sales in their first week than the AAF had their whole season.
Wow.
Which, the AAF was, 5 weeks long? So, it's not like it went a full season, but still, it's like 5-6 weeks of AAF, however long it was, made in their first week. Mm-hmm. It just tells you about the hype.
Oh,
and now it's all a matter of if they can sustain it. And I know, Fred, you have viewership stats that you want to say.
Yeah, so the viewership this weekend matched the same number as the AAF last year. But the big thing that we're going to with the media and all the higher officials of the XFL are going to be watching is that the AAF dropped 50% in week 2 for viewership, and that's actually projected for the XFL. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's a lot of hype, and I think it's going to continue on, just with the amount of rule changes. But yeah, that's the viewership statistic that expected as this weekend coming up.
I see where they're coming from with a 50% drop off because it already happened.
Right.
I'm sure it happened back in 2001.
Yep.
And it happened with the AAF. Why wouldn't it happen with the XFL?
Right.
I think week 1 of the AAF, I watched the first game and I couldn't handle anymore.
Yep.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was just watching worse NFL.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it was. It was pretty much the same rules, same everything, just worse play. The thing with the XFL, the play's a little better, at least, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think, you had Cardell Jones, who was exciting. P.J. Walker was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt McGloin played really well.
Yeah.
I think Elijah Hood played pretty well. I think some defenses really stood out. I think it was better play than the AAF, and it's just more entertaining with all the hot mics. So we've already discussed all these different things and the rule changes. The question now remains, as we enter week 2 and for the rest of the season, can this league survive on lesser play, but hang on to that entertainment value? Because that's my concern, is people tuned in week 1 to see the kickoff. I know I already said it.
Yeah.
They wanted to see the hot mics.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to see the reviews. They wanted to see things.
Right.
Now they saw it. Was it enough to bring people back in week 2, week 3, week 4? Is it? And I know for a fact, Vince McMahon, Oliver Luck, and all the people that threw money at this are sitting up in their offices, all in a kumbaya circle, holding hands and praying. They are hoping the level of play gets a little bit better.
I think it will.
Yeah, I would agree.
I feel like more routine, more regularity with the games. I feel like they're going to get more comfortable with their plays. Like, I know they've been practicing for a while, but I feel like in a live atmosphere, I feel like I can see it getting better. It's the same with the NFL. Week 1, they're always rusty.
Yeah, you never know who's going to win Super Bowl week 1.
Yeah.
The Vipers were not favorites, but the Vipers were, I think 3rd favorites to win the championship this year in their preseason rankings or whatever, and they scored 3 points.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I mean, maybe they're still the favorites. Who knows? Maybe they're still top 3 because, it's just week 1, man. They could win 9 more games.
Right.
No one knows.
Yeah.
Dallas Renegades 0-1. I don't know if they were favorites, but Landry Jones didn't play. Landry Jones with Bob Stoops. That's his boy. That's what everyone was waiting to see.
Right.
But he didn't play, so they only scored 9 points.
Yeah. I
think a difference where you're going to get a lot better plays because there's a lot of pedigree among these coaches.
Yeah.
Like I said, Bob Stoops.
Yep.
Pep Hamilton.
Yep.
Not sure about Jim Zorn yet. Jim Zorn is an interesting character. When the Seattle Dragons fumbled that ball to basically seal their fate as a loss, Jim Zorn just goes, "Oh gosh darn it." That's literally what he said. "Oh gosh darn it." I'm gonna need a little bit more excitement from you there, Jim. I'm gonna need a little bit more fire. I'm a Seattle Dragons fan. That's announced now. That was hard. That was hard. That was hard to listen to. I don't know. I question him, but they have a lot of good coaches in this league. They're going to work with these players, and week 1 is not. Some of these teams started out slow. Even the DC Defenders started out slow.
Yeah.
Houston Roughnecks started out slow. They were both down around halftime. 13-12, 17-12 for the Roughnecks. The second half comes out.
Yeah.
Firing on all cylinders.
Oh yeah.
And now maybe it just takes the rest of those teams 1 week to get going. Right. Another week of practice.
Yep.
Plus, most of them were the home teams that won.
Yeah.
Now the other teams will be home. I think some of them, at least most of them will be home, I think. I'm not sure how the schedule breaks down. But now you flip it around. The other teams go on the road. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's different. Maybe everyone will be 1-1 this week. Who knows?
Who knows?
Anything's possible. But, anything's possible, but we'll never know what's going to happen next week with viewership or anything like that until, guess what? Next week. Once the numbers of next week come in, we'll have a much better feeling of the survival chances of the XFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll survive. Just one aspect of it surviving is the amount of stuff people are buying as fans. Like, the Houston Roughnecks gave away free T-shirts for all the fans coming in, so that the stadium looks correct with the fans, but people are still standing in line and getting all the other stuff. Like, people are standing in line for $90 jerseys. Like, people are in it. Like, this is gonna survive.
I was gonna buy a Seattle Dragons hat, but I don't want to be that guy that did buy the jersey. Like, what's that guy with his AAF jersey doing right now? What's he doing with that?
It ain't worth anything.
It ain't worth nothing. But I also think I think the XFL will do better. There's just more hype. When the AAF happened, no one was talking about it. No one cared. But for some reason, maybe it's all the rules. Maybe it's because there are a couple players you recognize. The XFL just seems to be doing better week one.
Yeah.
That's my eyeball test.
Yeah.
I think it looks successful so far.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
Alrighty. It's that time. It's that time that I let you know that I've been drinking something. This entire time. It's Disaronno Italian liquor with cranberry juice, and it's really delicious. I don't think it's very high in alcohol because it's just a liqueur, so it's probably like 20%, like probably not even that. I have no idea. I didn't look, but I'll tell you though, it's delicious though. And what do you got?
I'm just rocking a 12 horse over here.
Good old fashioned Jenny 12 horse. Maybe we can get Jenny to sponsor us.
That'd be awesome.
We drink a lot of Jenny.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't have told him I was drinking Disaronno or Disaronno. Should have just lied and said I was having Schwarz beer or something.
Getting that Springbok.
Yeah, get that.
I haven't had that yet.
Is it out?
Yeah, it's been out for a couple weeks now.
It's not spring.
Right? I mean,
let's bring out this. Well,
Punxsutawney Phil said it.
I was just going to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. I guess spring's here according to the groundhog. So Jenny was ready for it.
Oh yeah.
So if you're ever in Rochester, go try Genesee beer. It's delicious. There we go. We'll show them that. Maybe they'll pay us. There we go. Perfect. All right. We're going to get into the games. It's time to hit up the actual action itself and let you know what happened if you didn't see it yourself. So, first game, Seattle Dragons at the DC Defenders. The DC Defenders won that game 31-19. Fred, take away.
Well, Brandon Silvers is not the Dragons quarterback that they thought he'd hoped to be, that they thought he would be, but yeah, so the Dragons had some learning to do. They tried a little comeback there and didn't go so well.
The refs even tried to help them out.
Yeah.
They reviewed it, gave them the first down, they still messed it up.
Yeah, I mean, they had lead at halftime, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Silvers. Complete mess. I saw him throw one pass early on.
Yeah.
Threw one pass in the first quarter, down the sideline, perfect ball, right into the guy's arms. Beautiful pass.
Yeah.
It's like, man. Because I initially thought B.J. Daniels was going to start, because at least he had NFL experience.
Right.
But, here comes Brandon Silvers. All right, he must know something. This guy's played at Troy. I mean, everyone loves quarterbacks from Troy. He comes out there and just, ooh.
Yeah, he has the short pass game, and luckily some of his receivers did the work for him. But
Austin Prohl.
Yeah, and
former Buffalo Bill, right?
I don't know that one.
I think he's a former Buffalo Bill.
It sounds familiar, like a practice squad or like training camp player.
I'm going to let you look that one up, but I'm pretty sure he's a former Bill. Fred's over here rocking the Buffalo Bills jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Or the sweatshirt, not a jersey.
Yeah.
But Austin Prohl had 2 touchdowns, and then another one from Trey Williams, but 2 of 3 touchdowns from Brandon Silvers. Austin Prohl, it was like a goofy throw. Austin was wide open, and he ran for like a 50-plus yard touchdown. Amazing play out of Austin. And then it was a short dump-off pass to Trey Williams, the running back, and he made a guy miss, and he strutted in the end zone. It was more of the playmakers making the plays than Brandon Silvers. Because overall, Brandon did not look like a quarterback. He was off the entire game. You could tell early they were trying to get the ball to Keenan Reynolds, has NFL experience with the Seahawks. they tried getting the ball to him, and he couldn't complete passes.
Yeah.
And ended up being 7 targets, only 2 catches for, I think, like 9 yards. The secondary looked terrible. Blew coverages all game. Made Cardale Jones look like an MVP.
Oh.
And speaking of Cardale Jones, MVP, if you watch the game, like, Cardale Jones completed his second pass of the game or something, and the entire stadium erupted in the MVP chants. I was like, what are you doing?
Right.
I think that's another thing that makes me happy about the XFL, is I think fans aren't taking it too serious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they realize, it's the first year of this league. We're just figuring it out. Let's have fun with it.
Right.
Cardale Jones completes 2 passes. MVP. Like, yeah, man, let's do it. Let's go all out, man. I love it. Cardale Jones, former Buffalo Bill. Take away your DC Defender take.
Yeah, so the DC Defenders definitely look like one of the more complete teams. Offense clearly exploded in the second half with Cardale Jones. So I think this is a little hot take here, is that, I mean, they were chanting MVP for Cardale Jones. Like, Cardale Jones could be the Lamar Jackson of the XFL.
Hot take. Project Codebreaker. Project Hot Take over here. Fred over here with the Cardale Jones being the Lamar Jackson.
I mean, he
did look good.
Scrambling.
Yeah.
He got the rushing yards in there.
Yeah. I don't think I wrote down all of his stats, but...
Yeah, I don't think... But, I mean...
Still a great game from him, though, with 3 touchdown passes, 319 total yards, including rushing and passing.
Yep.
No interceptions, no turnovers. He looked like a quarterback.
Yeah.
He looked very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And he has that NFL experience. I think that played in. I'll say it all season long. I will repeat this every single blog, every podcast. Experience is what's going to win in this league.
Oh, yeah.
Cardale Jones, person with experience, got the win.
Yep.
And I think, I don't know if it's a hot take, but if you want your triple threat, Kahari Lee, Eli Rogers, and Rashad Ross. Best receiving triple threat in the XFL.
Yeah.
No other team will touch that.
No.
The Seattle Dragons had Austin Prohl. That's it. No one else even thought about catching a ball. Maybe that's more of Brandon Silver's fault, but I look at some of these other teams, and they have good tandems, but these 3 guys lit up the stat sheet. They caught everything.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like but I think that's the Defenders being a more pass-first team than a running team. I mean, their running stats weren't great, so they clearly leaned on Cardale Jones quite a bit.
Got the paper turn. Definitely leaned on the passing game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think from what I was able to hear, the Seattle Dragons have 5 tight ends on their roster. They are wanting to be a running team, just like the Seattle Seahawks. It must be a city thing. They don't care about even if they have a quarterback or not. We're gonna run the ball.
There you go.
So they got 3 running backs, 5 tight ends, 10,000 offensive linemen. As long as we don't need a quarterback to throw the ball, we're fine. Whatever. Keenan Reynolds 2 of 7. Whatever. That's fine. Figure it out.
Yeah, there you go.
Apparently, it was not a winning formula because they lost. And now we are on to the LA Wildcats and the Houston Roughnecks. The Roughnecks take this one 37-17. Fred, initial thoughts?
Roughnecks looked really good. Wildcats, not so much. But, I mean, the thing here, I think, is Houston had 25 unanswered points. So, I mean, yeah. And P.J. Walker just looked really, really good in that game, and I think he's clearly going to be one of those quarterbacks that is going to stand out in this league, and I think he's going to help this league grow. But I mean, even the Roughnecks, they were having a field day with running the ball too. Like they're definitely a more complete team. Is the defense great? They're okay. I think they'll get the job done. That first half didn't look good for them, with the Wildcats kind of all over the place with their Princeton boy for the Wildcats. But
good old Princeton boy, I love him.
But yeah, they definitely know how to. They at least made the adjustments and kind of shut it down and for the Wildcats. And I think the Roughnecks are going to be one of those teams that definitely contend at the end of the year, end of the season for them.
I'm definitely with you all over on the Roughnecks. I have one concern for PJ Walker, and yeah, he can definitely throw the ball. 4 touchdown passes. He also ran for a 2-point conversion. But my concern, are we staring at a semi-pro level of RG3?
It's very possible.
This guy took a lot of hard hits.
Yeah.
He was playing with fire. I think he's a young guy. I mean, he looked explosive, but he took some hits. Took a lot of hard hits on some of his runs, not going out of bounds when he's supposed to, not really sliding. He's trying to face up linebackers. If he can survive the entire season, then this team's going to be dangerous all year long. And they have a great running back in James Butler. He looked amazing in the running and catching the ball. And then you got a guy by the name of Nick Holley, who apparently has maybe played in the NFL, I think, before. He had a good chance.
He was a traveling player.
And he apparently broke his back and tore his ACL in like both knees 5 times, and
it was nuts.
Maybe got shot at some point, maybe lost a limb. Like, I don't know. This guy sounded like he got blown up, but he caught 4 or 5 balls for 50 yards, and he caught one of them like between 3 defenders.
It was
he
nuts.
played really well.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of amazing players, and I guess we got to talk a little bit about the Wildcats. I mean, They did not play well, but they just had the weirdest. I mean, we were at our friend's house, and there was like conversations going on. It was like a little mini, like kind of like a party. And Charles Knopf, the Princeton boy, it was 4th and 6, I believe, from the 36-yard line.
Yep.
And the only reason I remember that is because if you punt from there, and it goes in the end zone, it comes out to the 35, and that would have been a net yardage of 1. And that's probably the argument Charles, such a Princeton name, Charles from Princeton, he probably took that argument to his coach, and he said, hey, let's go for it. You could see, they called a timeout, and he's over there yelling at the coach, hey, let's go for it. I can do it. Let's do it. They didn't do it. Well, they didn't get the first down. They tried for it, didn't get it. And then the next 2 series, this dude named McClendon comes out, throws like 2 passes and gets intercepted. And he comes out in the second series, goes like 3 and out.
Yeah.
And then the series after that, freaking Knopf's coming back out. He does terrible, like 3 and out. The next series, to like end the game, McClendon comes back out. You're in the middle of a game. You can't just be changing quarterbacks whenever you want. This ain't preseason. This isn't training camp. Just because somebody did something wrong doesn't mean you just take them out of the game.
Yeah, you gotta get him the game to play through.
What are you doing? Like, that was so bizarre to watch, because I couldn't hear the announcer saying like maybe there was a reason for it, but he definitely wasn't injured. I think he might have been just punished for not making his 4th and 6. That was my takeaway. He tried to convince him to do it. He trusted him. He didn't convert, and he benched him for 2 series. If you want a bright spot for the Wildcats, Nelson Spruce, 11 of 15 catching the ball, 103 yards.
He was really good.
He was great.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Every time someone caught a ball, I just assumed it was Spruce.
Yeah. I mean, most likely it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the couple other receivers they have on the team, 1 or 2 catches, but he was the go-to guy.
Yeah. Number 10 was also really good receiving the ball.
Yes.
But he's also the same guy who lost the punt off his face mask, and then he also like fumbled one of the kickoffs around, and like it came out of his arms and did something weird. Terrible returner.
Yes.
But he was a good receiver, though.
Yeah.
He did pretty well. I don't know his name. I'm just going to say number 10 because I know it was number 10.
I think last name Whitfield.
Ooh, that's why I have a co-host, man. If there's something I don't know, this dude's got it. Whitfield, number 10 for the LA Wildcats. Fred's got my back.
There you go.
And moving on to the next game, Tampa Bay Vipers completely laid an egg against the New York Guardians, 23-3. Now, just real quick for the Vipers here, terrible.
Yeah,
Flop.
That's a pretty good
Just
one-word assumption right
nothing.
there. Terrible.
If you want a bright spot, I don't know how much of a bright spot it is, but if you want one, their running game was good.
Yeah.
They had Devon Smith, 16 rushes for 79 yards. Jaquez Patrick, 8 rushes for 32 yards. And then when the quarterback Quentin Flowers came in, he had 5 rushes for 34 yards. Good. Okay, it worked.
They got something going there.
You scored 3 points.
Not a great something, but they got something.
And I mean, I don't know how much hate you can put on the Vipers when the New York Guardians just lit up the defensive stat sheet.
Oh yeah,
you got those stats for me, Fred?
So New York Guardians defense had 8 QB hits, 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, didn't allow a single touchdown, meaning the 3 points, and a boatload of interceptions.
I think they had 2?
Is it 2?
It was either 2 or 3. I think they had 2 official interceptions. I think I don't know. I think it was 2. I don't remember, honestly. I'm not going to look it up either, though.
No.
Basically, they stuffed the stat sheet on the defense and absolutely teared apart the Vipers, and they never had a chance. But I want to prove myself right again, just really quick.
Yeah.
Matt McGloin, he has a buttload of NFL experience.
Oh, yeah.
And he won the game.
Yep.
29 of 52, 182 yards with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. He didn't score a buttload of points.
No.
I don't know why buttload's a thing now. I'm just saying buttload.
Just like it.
I don't know why. It's just the first word coming to my mind right now. But he was a good game manager. I mean, he let the defense do their thing, and then he didn't turn the ball over and scored enough points, and they won.
Yeah.
That's what you want, experience.
Mm-hmm.
He's not trying to do too much. He gives it to his open guy, and you try to get first downs.
Yeah.
And they did a great job of that.
Yep.
And last but not least, the St. Louis Battlehawks played the Dallas Renegades. 15-9, the Battlehawks win. And what do you got for me here, Fred?
So I got, for the Battlehawks, we got Jordan Teamu. I think we're saying that.
Sorry Jordan, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry if we mispronounce your name. He's not listening.
Probably not. We got 9 rushes for 77 yards, and in the passing game, he had 20-27 for 209 yards and 1 TD.
That's solid.
That is pretty solid for.
I mean, it looks like you would have had a really good game with those stats.
Yeah, but just 15 points.
I mean, and I think it was 6-6 at the half. So
yeah,
they took the lead in the second half, and they really, air quotes, came alive in the second half. I mean, I don't know how alive they really were. But Matt Jones, running back, 21 rushes for 85 yards, also very good. Mm-hmm. Quick shout-out to my boy, former Seahawk, Christine Michael, 7 carries, 0 yards, and a lost fumble because he fell down without being touched and just let go of the ball.
Oh, that's awesome.
Highlight play right there.
There you go.
Congratulations. Yeah. That was Pete Carroll's, I think, second-round draft pick.
Oof.
That was one of our second-round draft picks right there. It was great.
That's yeah.
Real feel-good story right there. And then for the Dallas Renegades, they were a mess. And they were playing without Landry Jones, which is supposed to be the big story, is Landry Jones reuniting with Bob Stoops, the Oklahoma duo from college. And he wasn't playing, so it didn't work out.
Yeah, definitely.
They had Philip Nelson at quarterback.
Yep, and the Renegade coaching staff was not looking too thrilled about him being out there, but I mean, you gotta coach what you got. You can't just expect one person to be out there. But they definitely didn't adjust very well.
I think they basically tried to instill an offense like the New England Patriots did.
Yeah.
Like a dink and dive, like short passes because of a crappy arm. Mm-hmm. He was 33 of 42 for 209 yards. Same amount of yards as Jordan, but 13 more completions. I mean,
it's all dink and dunk passes.
Short passes and hope the playmakers make plays.
Yep.
And another thing I was worried about, I love being right.
Yeah.
Just former NFL players, the experience, are just going to do better. Lance Dunbar, running back, 5 carries, 27 yards to lead the team, And he had 6 of 6 catches for 29 yards. It's not amazing, but he was consistent. When he was asked to run the ball, he ran it. When he was asked to catch it, he caught all of them.
Yep.
Boom. Lance Dunbar, baby. Another thing I was right about.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, we're out of time for On and Off the Field for the first week of the XFL. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget about the giveaway. Go follow on Facebook and Instagram. I'm looking at Fred to give me cues here. Facebook and Instagram.
And Twitter.
And Twitter, that's right. And then rate and review on iTunes.
Yep.
I'll be looking for that. And then go to onandoffthefield.com, go to the bottom of the homepage, and send us a little contact email thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say whatever you want on it. You can say that you love the show, hate the show, whatever you want. But just include, all hail the Jockstrap King, and you will be entered to win one of the 3 prizes. Fred.
Yeah.
Sign us off, man.
All hail the Jockstrap King.
Hey, are you tired of the